To succeed, skill and talent alone is not enough. The will to win is worth much more. And that time is coming. That time is now. We are not born champions. We are made.
Okay, folks, well, delighted to welcome you to our special Under-20 All-Ireland Hurling Final preview. We've Cyril Farrell. We're also going to have Cormac Egan, former Under-20 Offaly player. We'll have John Bubbles O'Dwyer. And just a reminder that, again, we're brought to you by O'Neill's today. And if you do order online with them, your first order will get 20% off. So I'll just share out that link now to people who are following us on social media, on YouTube and Facebook. But we'll just start off with yourself, Cyril. Before we get fully into the under-20s, what have you made of the hurling season up to now?
Well, it's the Munster campaign has been very good. You know, it's kind of a minefield. You have to say that all the matches are very good. Starting off, say, you know, with the first one, Cork was it coming to Clare, you know, hard place to play in, or Clare going down there. Limerick starting off kind of slow, now building up, you know. But I thought, now Munster there's 5 for 3 places in Munster, and so far this year, there's kind of say 4 for 3 in Leinster. Leinster wouldn't be as competitive as Munster, but it was very competitive. Like teams were kind of with shock results on the way. Carlow drawn with Kilkenny was a shock result. Galway played very flat all through. Then, you know, Wexford starting off, Antrim beating them, and they coming home that week or that evening saying down and out, but yet to revive their season. So, you know, it's been a good year for hurling. The only thing is that they're coming so fast. It's hard even time to kind of build up to it or even talk about it afterwards, say, doing a review of it, because everything is coming in. And in the centre of that, you have the minor campaign, and then in the middle of all that, again, towards the weekends, you have the under-21 or 20 campaign, which has been a great campaign as well. And now with Offaly coming back in with the thousands of supporters, it has added excitement all over the country. And I say, Shane, with all due respects to Tip, I say we kind of nearly, of the hurling counties, they nearly be all for Offaly next weekend to win, except, like, it isn't anything against Tip, but the feeling is like Offaly deserved that, like, you know, from maybe the minor a few years ago.
Cyril, it's 31 against Tip, no matter who Tip are playing. But there's New York, London, everybody's thrown into the mix now against them this weekend.
But it's definitely 31 this time. Not to get like, no, but again, it's like you can see the sellout crowd already. The Offaly crowd the last night, like in the Leinster fight, was unbelievable. Like, but even again for the weekend, but they're up against a very good Tip team who beat a very hot Cork team. So like, it won't be a gimme, if you know what I mean. They're going to have to play very well for the 60 minutes.
Sir, just on the two provinces at senior level, like, what's the mood been like in Galway this week? I'd imagine it's been fairly sombre. Like, but of all the scenarios and all the things that we're talking happen, like we were talking about, Galway have to win a Leinster this year, like one of the favourites for Leinster, and they didn't get out of Leinster, like.
Yeah, well, you see, it's been kind of coming for a while, Michael. I said, to be fair, like a lot of the hurling followers would say, look at what happened. It happened last Sunday, but it's kind of building up to that. The pace is gone out of the team, and I'm not saying you could see it all coming, but like again, David Burke gets sent off and made it easier for Dublin. Like they worked the extra man well, but they were on top. Like they had a game plan. They won the toss, played against a strong breeze, and every ball they got, even from the full back line, but mainly the half back line midfield, they ran it, especially in the first half. They never hit it all, just ran and walked off the shoulder. You could see what they're doing. Very, very fit, and to be fair, they deserve to win it. But they have been getting closer and closer, and you know, Galway have been kind of, it's the same team more or less, the same personnel, maybe in different positions. But like starting next year, everyone said down here in Galway we have new players. But next year, if Galway go with a different mindset, say, to qualify as number 3, to me, like what they have to do is win their 2 matches, say, against Antrim or whoever it is, and then only beat one of the other teams. One of them, say, either Wexford, Dublin or Kilkenny. Get one result, it'll get them to Crow Park. You'll be actually hurling for the summer. And that in itself will be a success at this stage, because I can see that you have to build a new team. That's you can't just keep going with the same lads, really.
Isn't it strange, Cyril, how Tipperary and Galway, they seem to have really similar years. People are questioning, okay, well, you know, what level did the team get to this year? Did they bring through players? Are they getting max in what they have? Like, people are they've ended the season wondering, well, what did we achieve this year?
Yeah, well, Galway achieved nothing, simple as that. Galway and Tip are much in the same trajectory. But like, if you go back over the last 3 years, got into an instant final against Kilkenny first year with Henry, flopped altogether, didn't play. Now last year, I'd say it took a lot out of them, kind of losing the final that they believed they should have won. Never really, I don't think they ever really covered from. But the biggest thing, well, two big things in Galway is like the pace of the team is gone, and we're very poor in the air. Like we just can't seem to handle, like any team, we seem to get cleaned in the air. But the pace, the modern game, like you have to have pace. It's okay to have good hurlers, but you have to have the pace, and that seems to be gone out of the team. Now, it's not that they're not training, but whatever they're doing, and they're in there either on the pitch or in the gym, but whatever they're doing, it's not shown on the pitch any day.
Yeah, and the modern game, Cyril, is based so much around pace, isn't it? I just thought, like, I was looking at the starting team the last day, and there were 8 players that were involved in the 2017 All-Ireland final, either started or came in, and I just thought that, like, given the team that they knew they were playing against, are, you know, barrels of pace all over the pitch, I just thought the balance was off. And even when they lost a man, then, so you're asking 14 players, 7 of which have been involved for probably over a decade, to do extra work. I thought the balance was off from the start, and then I thought when you went down a man, the balance was off as well. And I don't know, like, are the players there, like, say, like, from all those All-Ireland minor wins, you know, 17 to 20, 4 in a row, those lads are not young now, they're 24, 25. Are there a good cohort there?
There are. That's the funny thing you should say now, Michael. Everyone said to me, the underage players aren't there, but it's not under 20 or 17. If I was going to that, I'd be looking for. There's lads there from 21 to up to 25. Good hurlers. Got a little taste, but they were never left on. They were never picked to be on. They were kind of just used in different competitions. You could pick a brand new team. I'm not saying that they'd win anything, but they'd be new. You'd build a team. You'd leave them there, and should they do as well as it is, with all due respects. What I'm afraid of is, if these fellas stay too long, they're going to be remembered for, like, they did win an All-Ireland, they did win an Ulster title, they achieved great things, but a time comes when you're, like, it's really the pace. It isn't that they're old in age, but there's a good bit on the engine in a lot of them, and a lot of them are carrying injuries or half injuries. That never seemed to clear up. We never had a full squad. I'm not making excuses, but you need everyone, especially on the big day, you know, and that's why I say about next year, whoever gets in there, if they plan it differently and just say the targets one of the top teams, if there's half injuries for the other top teams, don't play them. Just get them fit for the one game that you're targeting, maybe the home game, whatever it is. Win that, win the other 2, and you're through. I'm not on winning this time, I'm talking about just hurling for the summer. That, to me, would satisfy the public and get them back on track, because there's no doubt about it. The following that Galway have, there's a disconnect. It's not, you know, it's not great at the moment. Hasn't been great all year. It isn't just last Sunday. Last Sunday's 8,000 or 9,000 most of them Galway, but it's not. There's no kind of connection between the J followers and the team, and you need that. Like, you need the followers. I'm not saying they'll win a match here, but you need that goodwill coming from them.
It's funny you say that, sir. Shane, just on a quick point, Tip probably don't have the buy-in either from supporters as well, and that's
Shane will agree, but Tip and Galway are much the same position. Like, have won that underage, like Tip have won them as well. Had a completely different team last Sunday, and like they played with their hearts. At least, you know what I mean. They got out and honor last Sunday, and like they really put up to Clare. Like, the last game was a good game, whereas we were coming from the last game kind of very disappointing, very flat game. And you could see what Dublin were doing. Like, they were bound to do that. Now, I'd say they took us a bit by surprise by playing against a fairly strong breeze, but they had their game plan. And like, when we lost David Burke for about 5 or 10 minutes, we lost our shape completely. Like, as you know, you're down a man, so what do you do? Like, you just play 2 in the full forward line. But like, we seem to have everyone out the field, storm behind us, one forward on his own inside, and a ball going in up a kind of a Gary Owen. It was a kind of hit and hope, like, you know, even though they did score 19 points the first half, which is a good bit to score, but like, you conceded 2-11 on the other side, and that's too much to concede against a good strong breeze.
And Cyril, you know, there's always a fallout in hurling mad county. So you've seen what's happened in Tipperary, and Liam Cahill and a local reporter, and that's, you know, obviously carried on for the week. Then within Galway, Jeffrey Linsky, he did a piece with the Maroon and White Pod, I think it's called, the other day. And he was talking about the interview process and the fact that Matty Kenny and Micheál Donoghue have been over Dublin for the last, 5 or 6 years now, and the benefit they're getting. And Eddie O'Sullivan been involved in the interview process, and Eddie not knowing anything about hurling. Then Aidan Hart has come back. He was talking to Colin Parkinson and talking about how maybe, you know, Jeff needs to revisit what he's saying and look at the minors and the under-20s. And he was talking about the minors outscoring the under-20s in gym scores. So, like, what do you make of the fallout this week?
Yeah, well, I first of all, I think Henry won't be pushed. Like, you know, the board are quite happy if he stays on. There's no big volume of support in Galway. Supporters said he has to go. They're very happy with him in the sense like he's a gentleman, good coach, just didn't work out for them. They're not going to go ahead hunting again. I'd say no more than in Tipperary, like they got rid of Bonner very quick after a year. They're not going to do that with Liam Cahill. If he wants to stay on, he can stay on because they have to build again. In Galway, there'll be that. Okay, Jeffrey seems to be disappointed, but we all have done interviews, and there'll be different personnel from different from different facets of life. But Micheál Donoghue had a team. Won an All-Ireland was asked to stay on 2 more years, and for whatever reason, whether it was money or personnel, didn't stay on. Matthew Kinney had a team before this as well. They're all good. Freddie Ford is a good coach. John Hardiman is in Loughrea with Freddie Ford in St. Ravens College. They're all top coaches. And you'd love to see them involved, but you see they're all involved in different areas. Micheál Donoghue got a 3-year term in Dublin, is doing a fantastic job. He's going to stay there. Matty Kinney has kind of his term over with Coola, and he's back with his home club. But there's plenty of lads around. But I think the board, if Henry goes, they should take their time, set up a committee, and the big thing is whoever they appoint has to be capable of doing the job, and more than ever has the time to do the job, because as you know, boys, this management thing with the county teams now, a senior county team especially, it's full time. There's no point in saying it isn't. Taunted a few lads here involved in the panel. If they're not in a gym, they're on the pitch. You know what I mean? Maybe off 1 day a week where the recovery, I don't know where the recovery is going, but it's overload as far as I'm concerned. There's too much training going on, but that's up to the management to get that right. It's a big decision because there's still a mad hurling following here in Galway. If you're the good winner 2 next year, all this is turn again. I remember in '84, lads, Offaly, your crowd, Michael Beaters out the gate in Thurles, and they were saying headlines was hell or dead and buried. So the following year was a crowd of rookies were back in a final. It's a small thing can change a year. You look at Waterford at the moment, they're in hard luck. Should have beaten Tip probably. Tip got out of jail. Harder not to get a point against Clare. The same as Cork last year. Okay, they're qualified this and they're all talking about them. They were just as good last year, but just that little break. You need a break, and you still have at the top. You still have Limerick the whole time, who to me seem to be getting their mojo back again from judging from them the last weekend.
Yeah, just quickly, Cyril. Management, you said, has changed drastically. I'm sure you put a hell of a lot of time into it back in the day. Would you do it? Would you do it now with all the demands that are involved in it?
Well, the only thing is now I'm free. I'm what you call it? I'm busy doing nothing. Right? But that time, you see, I was coming a lot from Dublin. You had plenty of time you were 3 or 4 hours in the car for a start, and you had a lot of time to be thinking and planning. But it's different now in the sense that, they're on fruit juice and they're on jungle juice. They're on, you know what I mean? They're getting tested. It's gone very scientific, which is lovely. But that doesn't make you hit the ball over the bar. It's like a coach telling me, well, the wing forward had a great first half. He got 2 hooks and 3 blocks. They say he's working hard. And I said, that means that the wing back had the ball 5 times. I said, what did he score? What did he hit? It depends on the way you look at the stats. And they're all a help. But the way hurling has gone now, the first thing you need, okay, you have to have the skill, but you have to have pace as well. You're going to get caught the way the modern game has gone. And even with the planning, because they drag everyone out into space, the ball goes into space, you have to be able to read it and have the natural pace, if you know what I mean. So, that's and I think Tipper are much the same. Galway and Tip, if you change the jerseys, you're getting much the same kind of game time. They look the same.
Cyril, would you mind telling our viewers about driving up and down from Dublin for training, and maybe not cottoning on to the fact that you could have made life a hell of a lot easier for yourself?
That's how smart I was. With the name of Jesus, God Almighty. When you think of it, Tuesday, leave Dublin Tuesday evening at around 4:20, travel down the whole lot, train back around 2:30, 3 o'clock. Go back to the digs on Wednesday evening. You'll be doing Wednesdays work, Thursdays and Fridays, and go down again the same thing Thursday and come back Thursday morning, Friday morning. Never dawned on me. That time it was Tuesday, Thursday, the weekends. Never dawned on me. Switch it to Friday. I'll be coming home anyway. Going on for a few years. It was all over, saying, in the name of God. Just that was a done thing. Tuesday, Thursday, and the weekend. Now, all weekend could be a little bit longer than others. Could be Saturday morning, Saturday evening, and Sunday. But you know what I mean? It never clicked into the now. Even it's all Tuesday, Friday, and the weekend, or it could be the mornings as that type. But it was a long spring because that time, Michael, you see, there was no motorway that time. God forbid, the Kilbeggan, Turles Pass, Clonard, all them places. Moat, the lights, it was like going into the Sahara. But that was Tuesday and Thursday. Monday evening, you do the preparation work for Tuesday and Wednesday. And Wednesday evening, do the prep work for Thursday and Friday. You know what I mean? You were kind of doing 2 days ahead. But that's when you were doing it. you didn't know the difference. But when you stopped doing it, you say, "Oh God, I was mad." But that's great. Oh.
Did Dublin ever try to get you involved when you were based in Dublin?
No, but you see, I was involved with the under-21s. I was with Aaron's Eye one year. The chairman now of Dublin had the privilege of having a corner forward, and we won the championship that year. Nice team, got a good few footballers on it, and like they were a nice hurling team, you know, and kind of well into hurling. They had a few very good fellas and a few very good footballers that were athletes as well. Now we had a great whole campaign, but no, I took a football team, would you believe, in the training college in St. Pat's, Aaron's Hope they were called. We had under-21. We had a county team, so Jesus, it didn't matter who was over them. We won it easy, like, because they were all very, very good footballers, all potentially senior footballers. You had them from everywhere. They were a joy to train because they were so good. You know, you could do what you liked to them. But Aaron's Eye was a tough campaign, but they were good hurlers.
And was there any standout player that people would have heard of from that Aaron's Hope team?
No, Buckley and these as to be standout, Charlie Redmond, standout footballers more than hurlers, you know.
Charlie Redmond was on the Aaron's, was hurling with you.
I think he was, yeah. It was a good while ago, yeah. And I had a fanatic. He was driving for Esso at the time. I remember the name of Flanagan. He was, I don't know if he was Mullingar really, but he was a fierce Galway supporter, a hurling supporter. And we used to have a cup of tea after training and a few buns and things like that. And the whole thing started to come together. Next thing, from not winning, we couldn't stop winning for that period. You know what I mean? So it was a very exciting time, really. Well, it was around 83 or that. I'm not too sure the year now that, you know.
Can I just ask you, Cyril, about like even talking about that and having a bit of tea and stuff after? Talk to me about like the bonds that you must have created throughout your hurling career and your management career in particular. Like, you must meet lads that left the breadth of the country and lads know you, and you have memories and, you know, good memories, bad memories from different matches, I'd say.
I would look at in our time it was Kilkenny and Tip were the you know, we'd call them the enemies in Offaly, but for the ones that were our enemies, you become the greatest friend. I remember Babs Keaton, like he trained our Galway team in '79, and he was coach, and I was training, and we had a Sean Connery, 5 selectors over the team working hard, beaten, and then I kind of got over Galway, and he went back eventually over Tip, and so we were playing one another the whole time, and even in the heat of battle. Like you'd love him. He's a rogue, like, you know. He might pass you by and he'd say, "I might have one for Leopardstown next Saturday." This would be either a semi-final fight to be like that. Turned out to knock out, and we'd be fighting. But that's the way it was, like, you know. Like you Andy Gallagher from Offaly, you know, these guys. They were great characters, but the hurlers, like, sure, look at. You'd love them because like they were playing the game. You'd hit hard, but they were playing the game they loved, and we loved the game as well. And even though there'd be hard tackles, you'll find that say, God forbid, Tony Keeley passed away there a few years ago. The Tip team to a man arrived. Now they didn't come together on a bus, but they all came individually. But they all met together, all collars and ties. I couldn't believe it, all on them. And there was thousands at the funeral. They stood back to let them through. They couldn't, like, he was a lad that we fought, you know what I mean? But that's the hurling family, really. And people use the word family and say, "Oh, it's just a kind of a cliche," but it's not in the hurling sense. Hurling is bigger. You spread the gospel. You're going to beat who you're trying to beat them, but it's bigger than that. You know what I mean? It's bigger than that. That's the way it's always going to be. Up to Antrim there twice there in the last few months, and sure, the people that play the hurling, they adore hurling. You know what I mean? They're fanatic on it. No, and it's great to see them up in call it Division 1. They're there a good while. Gleeson is doing a fantastic job with them because he gets them all together. They're a challenge for anyone.
Do you know, Cyril, it's a couple of months since myself and Michael last did a Hurling Power Rankings. And I'll give you what we had done. This was on the left-hand side of the screen here. This was our 11. We started with Limerick, Clare, Kilkenny. Then we went Galway, Tip, Cork, 7 Wexford, then Waterford, Dublin, Carlow, Antrim. And I suppose having Tipperary in at number 5, which I probably push for, that hasn't really worked out, Michael, anyway. But and Galway at number 4 as well, Cyril. Like,
the one that has the constant there would be Limerick. You know, and I thought the last day again now that they're actually coming back to what they were. I met John Kiley at a function there over Christmas. There was a function in Limerick for what do you call them? The boys, Patrick's, the Well, for the 3 lads hurlers the year. Was a guest, and so was John Kiley. Now, it was all the Well, it was all hurling. We wound up together. And, like, he was very interested. He didn't tell you anything about the training. He was asked, you know, this, that, and the other. Like, what I liked, he was very clear and he knew what he wanted. You know what I mean? And I was saying to him, the few new lads I know, like, say, English, O'Neill, Coughlin, O'Brien, I said, these are very good. They'll make the team. And he was saying, they won't unless there's someone missing. He said they might make it. He said they're just coming, like, you know, now these guys are good young lads. Now they're going on a good team, of course, but now they begin to, with the injuries, they're getting their chance, and they're not letting the side down. But I asked them about the training, because that's what I'd be interested in. And he was saying they do a 7-week block, hard. And then I kind of asked kind of a stupid question. I said, would we man who were missing? And he looked at me as if I had 10 heads. He said, missing. Sure, he said, if they're missing, they're missing. Like, in other words, there was no one missing, you know. So like that would be my way of doing it too. But like you know, you can't have lads not the block. You can't have them missing that block of training. Not talking about on top to get up there. Now 7 weeks isn't too long. We were probably 7 months. I think we're doing too long, if you know what I mean, or we're not doing it right, whatever's happened. But like that's for another day. But he was very clear what he wanted. Like I love the way he was talking about the new fellas, that they weren't going to make it that easy, like, you know. But like I'd seen these as in college and seen it coming on under 21. I said, geez, they're very good. Like to me, they're very good. But he was saying, if the team is right without injuries, they won't be on.
But part of that, Cyril, and it used to be like this with Borough back in the day. You really had to earn your spot. You could be the best minor coming out, and you could be ripping it up for the county, even under 20. But you have to earn your spot. And all them lads, none of them have been handed it easy. Like if you look at Cathal O'Neill, has had the hard road to get on that 15, and now he's on the 15, and he's going to be hard to get off for the guts of the next decade. But they're really making them earn it, and there's something longer in that. There's a bigger picture in that, because when you earn something, you want to hold on to it forever. Whereas if you're given something, not given it, but if you don't have to work that hard for it, you almost maybe take it for granted, and it's not as precious in the long game.
Yeah, and that can happen now. It happens a lot of time now, Michael, with this modern thing of, say, having development teams and, you know, like, say, under 16 developments, 18, the minors going, even in between, and you have a mother and father saying, oh, he's on the development squad and he's very good and they think that he's going to be, you know, he deserves to be on the senior squad. It doesn't work, or even on the senior team, because he's been on, say, we'll say on the under-20. It doesn't go that way. Like, if you look at the likes of, say, Dan Morrissey, playing full back, big, strong man, good hurler, but not fantastic, but he fits into a pattern. You know what I mean? He's able to hold that position. When he's missing, he's a big loss. And going back on the full back lines, like Wexford this year, when they were missing, what they call the full back,
Finn?
Liam Ryan.
Oh, Wexford, yeah.
Wexford.
Against Dublin, 2 goals. Against Antrim, the goals. Once he was there, this like, you need a full back that's a regular that knows how to play full back. In other words, ball coming, he mightn't play the ball at all, doesn't have to. But it's a fierce, important position, more so now than ever, because before you'd have your 2 cornerbacks and your 6 backs. Now they're being dragged everywhere. But the common denominator is the full back still shouldn't be, like you saw Waterford missing Prunty. Like, sure, you know, the lane goes at like there was no one there. If Prunty was playing, he'd be there. You'd have to fight to get past him. You might get past once, but you won't get by the second time. You still need a big presence there. And you look at the top teams, like, you know, Limerick have Morrissey, Hugh Lawler for Kilkenny. They're all kind of, we call them regular fullbacks. Nothing fancy, but know how to do the job. Like in Cork, had to search for a long time. And we were here in Galway. We had one, and he was an all-star for 4 or 5 years, and we went playing a wing back for it on the many matches, where they realised his best position is full back. You know what I mean? It's a fierce, important position. It's not glamorous, so you won't have many get match of the day, like you're going to be not going to mend the match, but it's more important than people think, maybe now than ever.
The ultimate sin there for a full back is trying to do too much hurling.
Yeah. Like, you see, like, I remember an old Screeny playing, he'd always play brilliant against us. Always. Brilliant goalie. But he would never let the three in the full back line, the forwards could go out where they liked. He wouldn't allow his 3 lieutenants out to move at all. He'd hold them there and he'd say to me, sir, let the points go over. I'm here to block the goals. I protect myself. He wouldn't let them move. To move a little. But they'd be there, there'd be a constant wall there. Whereas now, like, they're all over the shop, you know. You still need the wall, because the goals usually don't come from 60 yards out. They still usually come from around the square.
Yeah, it's true. Michael, I'm going to put you on the spot here and say, where do we have to accept we got it totally wrong? And I'm just leaving Limerick at number 1. I'm sure we all agree with that. But Michael, what's got to change here?
Well, Tip and Galway have to go out of the top 6 anyway, definitely. Cork are going to have to take a significant leap.
Antrim ahead of Carlow, Dublin up.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of movement needs to happen. I think it's trying to settle on who do we think is the second best team in the country at the minute. I'm not totally buying into the Cork hype. I think they're dangerous, but I think Clare have more proven than Cork, as do Kilkenny. So I probably still have, probably in that same order, I'd probably still have Clare 2, Kilkenny 3, Cork probably 4.
Cyril, can I put this to you that like Clare were unbelievable for 55 minutes, we'll say, against Limerick, and then sort of fell away very badly in that game against Cork. Like that was a brilliant win against Cork, especially in light of what Cork have done since. But they sort of flipped and flopped against Waterford, just about got over the line. And then from 7 or 8 up on Tipperary, only won by 3. So I wonder, is there any sort of frailty there with Clare, or do you feel like they'll start to come to the boil again?
But yeah, the thing is, like, they're scoring enough in all the games, but you'd have to say their backs, their half-back, line back, while they're good going forward, they're not that brilliant at the back at times. Like, as you say, like, they played very well through the year, but yet against Waterford, they got killer goals to kill any team. And yet Waterford came back more or less with points. And the last day against Tip, now I know it was hard for them to be kind of on high dough the whole time, but I thought they were a bit flat against Tip. I'd be worried about them. No, they will rise to Limerick. But if they play like they play last Sunday against Tip against Limerick, they'll be gone, because like it was a different level. But they do deserve to be in the top 2 or 3. But you look at Brian Lohan, to be fair to the Clare board, this is his 5th year. They left him alone when he was kind of knocking at the door. Like, they got caught with a goalie one year. They got caught with a cornerback another year. He picked a guy another year that most people wouldn't pick. Like, big mistakes. They left him though. And now they're reefing by leaving him there. Like, it's very easy changing that, but like you have to give managers, they usually come out, if you leave them alone, things will work for them, that kind of way. But like they're in for, like, the Munster final is going to be a brilliant game, like, because Clare won't back down. Limerick can't afford to back down. I don't know. It's probably a debate for another day. By right, you'd want a referee in both halves. You'd want 2 referees. This is going to be, what's happening at one end of the field. There could be just as much happening off the ball and the other end, and it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. And these guys, you talk about the Hurling family. These guys know one another inside out. They're intermarried, a whole lot. But like a Clare man isn't going to change, or a Limerick man isn't going to change. For that hour or 70 minutes, they're going to be rivals, and they'll kill one another. When it's over, then it's over.
Just on that, sir, just really quickly, do Clare have to win the Munster final this year?
No.
Okay. You still think they could get to the end of July going through the back door?
Yeah, they could. They're that kind of a team now. They're a physical team. If they get the grip set, they'll want to win a Munster title. But I don't think, no more than Limerick, it won't worry Limerick if they lose that Munster title. They'll want to win it. But the Limerick's team, they have to win the All-Ireland. Munster won't count. Now, if Clare won a Munster and got no other, didn't win any other match, that'd be brilliant for them. But they're at 2 different levels at the moment. Like, Limerick's thing is all about winning the All-Ireland, really, and well and good. Yeah. Well and good. Whereas Clare, if they do win a Munster title and they don't win any other game, they'll have a successful year. That's what I look at.
And Cyril, in terms of Cork, to me, they look like they're getting stronger every game they play, both in terms of the experience, the confidence, and then just like athletically, this team looks like it's just hungry for more games. You know the way you look at Tip and Galway, and it looks like they're running out of juice the more games are going on. They look to be getting better, and they'll bring back Robbie O'Flynn, and they've Kieran Joyce back available as well. Like, to me, I would probably see them as closer to being All-Ireland winners than Clare. Who would you pick between the two?
Yeah, well, you see, if you give room to Cork, if you give them room to dance, they'll dance. Like, they're beautiful hurlers and they have that pace. You're talking about Robbie O'Flynn. He played against Galway before Christmas. It was below in Cork, first day back. It was a kind of a challenge game or a charity game or something. And he has the pace again. They like Kingston comes on, has the pace. They probably won't start. They have a lot of fellas, like you have Conley now lighting up full forward, but they haven't met a real test yet. Like last year they were very unlucky, but even this, they look very good. They've played 4 games, but they've lost 2 as well. But if they get on the move, like you can see the crowd are behind them, they're willing them there. And even last day in Thurles, sure, half the crowd didn't go home on the train at all. They said in Thurles, I don't hear it. Thurles on, I didn't go home. Like, it was like 5 or 9 for celebrating. You know what I mean? The feel good factor was back again. And as you know, like, it doesn't take much for a Cork man to get confident. Like, they're confident even getting beaten. So when they start winning, like, just flows. That's their DNA. They have very good hurlers. They're a joy to look at, really. Like, but you'd have to put them up in the top 2 or 3. once they get their game going. But that's sure, like God help the we'll say the Joe McDonough team that meets them. Like Cork would be, that'll be another final for them, and they'll put up a big score and they'll win, and they're on a roll. Like they're coming in a nice way actually once they qualify.
Cyril, you're a betting man. Would you trust Cork?
Well, when you put down money to bet, you don't trust anyone. You know what I mean? But like you look at that Saturday morning, 8-1 for Man United, the one-off game, like to win. I think Cork will get on a roll. They have very good hurlers, and I really think when Limerick start to come back to the pack in Munster, when they do start coming back, I think Cork more than anyone else are in a great position because all them young hurlers are still there. They're not in Australia. Maybe they lost one or two to the rugby, but they're all around and they have talent. It's kind of a matter of putting them together, really. They seem to be coming. They're at a younger age than Clare. Like Clare have the young and the old mix, but like a lot of the top Clare hurlers are at the wrong end of it as well. Whereas Cork, they're at the right end really, and they're hungry, not in one.
Do you think, just lastly on Cork, is there a potential that this is Limerick 2018 for Cork? That if Cork get over the line here, all of a sudden there's, like, apart from, Hardy and Horgan and maybe Damien Callan, there's a load of guys with a load of potential, a load of pace, a load of class that they could potentially, like, nobody saw Limerick coming in 2018. Nobody saw what came after. Do you think there's any possibility of that happening with Cork if they get over the line this year, next year?
I think there's every possibility. I'd be predicting that's what they'll do if they get over the line. They could overnight, like they have the hurling and they have the beautiful wrists and they have the pace. Like I say, if you give them room to dance, they'll dance. Like even with lesser teams, they'll dance. You don't have to give them confidence. If they win, they'll be on a roll. Like, they're good for hurling. Cork, like they're a hurling county. I know they have the good football teams, but the hurling is the big thing, and they'll swamp. They'll take over the crowds and on wherever they play. If they get a run, say quarter-final, semi-final, they'll pack every stadium even with their own supporters because they're hungry for success. It's 20 years nearly, so it's a long time for Cork.
Michael, we'll have to nail this one down. I think just on the basis of what Clare have produced heretofore and the fact that they beat Cork, they go number 2.
Yeah.
Kenny with the possibility of winning Leinster again, and look, you can't rule out Dublin, which is why I've kind of thrown them in at 5 there. Cork have to go the longer route. Would you disagree with too much of this, Michael? And then I'll throw it to you, sir.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy enough with that. Listen, I don't think Kilkenny are ever going to be too far away. They haven't lit it up yet, but they probably haven't had to. They've the vast majority of their best players back on the pitch are coming back to the boil again. I do think they'll improve. Similar to kind of Limerick, I think they're only starting to motor now. Clare have probably dipped a small bit, but I think they have plenty of credit in the bank, don't they, realistically, with the league title and even 55 minutes against Limerick, and they're in a great position. That's a real sucker punch, and they bounce back and win their next 3 games. And I think that's the form of that game as well, beating Cork down in Cork. And I know they had an extra man for, a decent chunk of time or whatever, but I still think that counts for a lot. I'd be happy enough with that, Shane. I think of the Leinster teams that are most likely to get back to an All-Ireland final or possibly get to an All-Ireland final, I think Kilkenny are still the most likely. I think there's a nice bit of balance to that, but geez, it must hurt you putting Tipperary down at number 9, and it could be further down.
Yeah, well, look, I don't think I have any more wiggle room there because even losing to Galway last year, it just hasn't been a great year. Cyril, would you contest any of that list?
Not really, no. Like you could swap Tip and Galway. There's the same, they're 8 and 9, but you could have Tip 8 and Galway 9. It's the same. They're on the same level. You know what I mean? The others are all there in merit, as you say. Like Clare have, to be fair to Clare, they're consistent. They did beat Limerick last year. Kilkenny are in a Leinster final, always hard to beat. Like Cork, eventually they were going to come sometime. They seem to be there. And Dublin and Wexford, like Dublin are playing a nice game. Would have felt the last day against Kilkenny that they could have won it, or they feel that they should have won it. And so Wexford on a given day, like would be, would they have to play it high though every day? But like I would agree with that. Is the biggest 2 losers this year would be Galway and Tipperary. When I say losers of the top, like that they haven't performed really to the level that they should be.
Yeah, someone called YouTube Name obviously didn't bother putting their actual name in. Says Waterford are better than Wexford and Dublin. What would you think of that, Cyril?
Well, the way they're playing, yeah, you could argue that, but like they've only got 3 points, but yeah, they have played much better this year. But you see, they've got the lads back. You have Jamie Barron back. You have Ty de Burka back. You have the Lions is playing. You have the Bennett's back. They're playing with freedom this year. And the one thing that they've done this year for Fitzy is that they've died for him on the pitch. Now they might have won, but by God, they were giving it like they were really showing. And they'd fancy themselves against Dublin or Wexford because it figured they have the pace as well. I like to see Waterford playing with a bit of flamboyant. I think they're better playing nearly what I call off the cuff rather than structuring too much. You know what I mean? You can see what Dublin are going to do. Like Waterford now would squeeze Dublin because they'd let them come so far and then they'd be stopped. Be like the football, like they'd know what they were going to do with that running game. It wouldn't work fully against Waterford, I think, because Fitzy would play this as he calls this +1, but like to be very plugged. They'd come a certain bit, but when they get around 45, 50 yards out, to be a stop.
Did you chat? I know I was chatting to you last year, Cyril, at different stages, and you weren't totally blown away by the way Waterford were playing. Would you have talked? I know you're very friendly with Dave. Without going into too much detail, would you have talked to him about the style? You would like a change in style and maybe playing a bit more open, a bit more of attacking style. Like what some of the stuff they played this year in the championship was beautiful to watch. The 225 the first day, 321 the second day, 226 in defeat. Like it was poles apart from what we saw last year.
Yeah, well, you see, the first thing he had the players that he wants back. Like Fitzy will always play. He'll make the suit according to the cloth he has. Like he might be, on the sideline, roaring and shouting exuberant, but he's a completely different lad when you get him training with a team. He's very practical. He'll have 2 or 3 different game plans. They'll know it inside out. Like they won't be hit anything by surprise because he'll have all that. Like because he thinks nothing only hurling morning, noon, and night. Do you know what I mean? If you're driving with him, he has game plans all like in his head. Now it can be hard for fellas to buy in, but when they buy in, like you'll find that it'll improve a ton once he has the personnel. And like you look at the way they played this year in the league, completely different. All defensive saying and missing players. He comes out in the championship and he blows fellas away because like they're bombing forward. Like the whole lot of them from the half back then, and got caught with what Prunty was missing. You see, like you need everyone. I thought he got a great year on Waterford this year. And at the end of the day, the Waterford supporters were coming around and they were following the team. Whereas early on, they were giving out, but this was that and that was wrong. But he kept kind of saying, judge me on the championship when I have all the players. You need all your best players, that. Like you just can't afford. Like Tyler Burke and these fellas, they'd be on any team to be fair. Like, and if the Bennett, like Stephen Bennett can't really train, I think he's a great hurler. Like they're just natural forwards. And Shane and these boys have an eye for a goal. Young Pat Fitzgerald. These guys, Waterford have a lot of good hurlers that can play. We call it a modern game, off the shoulder and travelling. But like to me, I like to see them playing it with a flow. I don't like to see them kind of maybe too structured because otherwise it's kind of if they have to think too much. I think off the cuff, that's their best way to play. I think.
One trick Tony's asking here: who would be your top 3 players, or basically who has stood out for you so far this season
in the hurling?
Yeah,
it was just Shane O'Donnell every day. Like he's gone to a new level. I love Pat Horgan, lads. They're all saying he's too old and that maybe his pace got a bit, but like the skill he has, like the goal, the little flick over, he just said that others don't have. But Jim Barry Murphy tells me that he nearly hurls every day for an hour on his own. Like that will just tell you, knocks off or whatever he's like an hour on the ball, an hour. Like you can see it in his wrist, he makes it flow. But O'Donnell, like the last year, like he's on it, no one seems to be able to pin him down. He's not extra big, but like, and you watch him like all the clear. When he gets the ball now, he lays it off. Like he's kind of like a wing back, like say in American football, like planning the whole time. No, Limerick have different fellas every day, but they're getting back. Like they lost a bit of form early on, but you can see Bourne is slightly getting back to it. They're all getting back to where they were. None of them fully flying yet, but when they do, it'll be a different level altogether. Though it's good to see Donald Burke back, underrated for Dublin. Very, very good hurler. Like, and if he gets the ball loose, like he's going to score. Galway left him loose in the first. I couldn't believe it. He was winding up loose on, I'd say, wing forward, now 55 or 60 yards out, even against the breeze, no problem. Mainly left-handed, but a very, very good hurler and underrated. There's 2 lads. There's a Burke lad playing cornerback for Antrim. Paddy
Burke, yeah.
They're like, if he was playing for Limerick, he'd be an Ulster. Like he's a brilliant player. You know what I mean? And there's a McNaughton. They have some fine hurlers, but they have everyone. You could see like this guy every day, and what's more, he's there every day. Which is a great sign because you'll be tempted at times to say, well, I won't bother that game or this game. He's there every day. He's a very good hurler. I thought the last day for Tip, they might have found a place for Jake Morris. Being like centre forward, he seemed to be popping up, getting great scores, and the big thing was that playing centre forward. He was playing centre forward. He wasn't going off like he was dominating where he was playing. A lot of the time, the modern centre forwards play with what they call a double centre forward, but there's none of them ever there. So the centre back is kind of on his own. Morris played what I call old style, but he won the duel centre forward, which is a big place to win it.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we'll move on to the Under-20 All-Ireland final sponsored by O'Neill's now, Cyril. How much have you enjoyed the season up to now? And with Offaly and Tipperary being there, and obviously myself and Michael are fairly well entrenched in our support in this match, like, is it a surprise to see those teams here?
Well, first of all, it's not a surprise to Offaly, if you know what I mean. No, the structure is kind of different in Leinster and in Munster, and the structure in the minor, you can lose nearly every game. It's completely different. But like Leinster was very good, and like I saw both Offaly and Dublin, the whole lot playing. Like, and you could see Offaly, they're used to one another, and when they get behind, they weren't panicking. Now I said to the boys here at home, the local pub, like that, Dublin will run them tight. They're better than people like being Dublin, and they did run them tight, but Offaly were the better hurlers. Tip, to me, are kind of probably the most improved, because Cork were strong on paper, and probably a bit unlucky. But the boys, was talking to some of the Cork lads that were telling me earlier in the year that this is the strongest Cork team of all time, but I don't think it was an Under-20. It didn't look it to me like other years. But anyway, they had plenty of chance to be Tip. Their free taker was off form that night, missed a few scores, but Tip have improved the whole time. You know what I mean? And you can see that Brendan Cummins is very invested in them, really kind of focused and driving them. And I think Offaly will be favourites, but it's going to be hard for them to win because there's going to be pressure on them. You know what I mean? There's pressure on them with the crowd. You can see the last night, it was unbelievable. It was great to see. It was like an All-Ireland final afterwards with all the kids. And it was lovely to see, that's what you want. But this is a kind of a hardened Tip team. It's not going to worry Tip if Offaly are hot favourites and if they can beat them again. But just think the law of averages or Murphy's law or irony really that it could be Offaly's turn this time rather than Tip's turn.
But Michael, I have to stop you there now. How many times have Offaly been in All-Ireland Under-20, 21 finals?
Or beaten in 3, I think. Was it 3?
4.
No, okay. And including I wasn't including last year. I'm including John Troy, Brian Whelan's crew back then. Amazingly, like lads, the boys have all the medals. Sid and Johnny P and all them boys have all the medals, bar the Under-21. There were some cracking games back in the day. I remember being at one, I think when it was 4. Was it 4 or 5? Tipperary beat them in a better of a game. Dyken always talks about it. There were some brilliant games. We didn't get over the line. I hazard a guess and say we got a fair bit more out of our Under-20 teams at senior level than he did during the 90s. But Adam Screeny and all those lads are trying to do what no Offaly man has done before. And to me, as far as I can make out, Offaly have every All-Ireland at every grade in football and hurling, barring the Under-20 / Under-21. So this group have kind of done a lot of firsts along the way. It was the first minor in, 22 years. It was the first Under-21 in 23 years. And this will be obviously the first Under-20 of all time. But I do agree with Cyril. I think it's actually very similar to the minor final 2 years ago. And both of these teams are probably a year ahead of where they should be, which is a great sign.
Michael, is Ravenhill injured or is he available?
Yeah, no, he did his hamstring. He actually did it against Dublin in the group stages. And then didn't he go off against Galway, Cyril, was it? I think it was Galway. And he hasn't been seen since, and he won't be seen on Saturday either. That's a serious enough injury. He'd do well get back for club duty by all accounts from what I'm hearing.
Well, before, as he's playing down Offaly, I'll play down Tipperary a bit and say of the starting full forward line a couple of years ago in the minor final, Tom Delaney's no longer hurling for Tipperary and Paddy McCormack is out with a broken thumb. So if you just allow me to pour him out a small bit as well, Cyril.
Yeah, well, there's lad in there, and he got 3 goals in one of them matches, and Darren McCarthy, from college, he's a good player. You have English as well, Oisin O'Donoghue, and you watch the midfield, say Daly usually go back in behind that. Is it Cormac in the central? They play a sweeper, as Fitzy call it. It isn't a sweeper, it's a +1, but call it what you like. But they're used to that. They're used to that system, and this Farrell midfield, they're good workers, and you'd have to say their work rate and their keep at they had plenty of chance against Cork to kind of lose the match. You know what I mean in general play, but they didn't. They hung in, and even the minor, you'd think they were beaten a lot of times, and they still hung in. And as you say, this is kind of a year ahead of what can happen, but it doesn't always follow through. And it's funny about the Under-20 in Galway. We can't win one now for ages. I remember my time. It was Under-21 then, and we won quite a few of them. I'm not saying they all were done seeing, but we won them every few years. I think I might have won around 5 because I had a lot of them in with me in and out, and you know what I mean, doing the training. But like now, they're getting very hard to win any. You know, it's a good competition. It's hard to win, and like only the winners come through. The minors is slightly different to get a great chance altogether. But like Clare had a good run this year under 20 as well. As I said, Cork was supposed to be unbeatable, yet they're beaten. So like and Tip beat them. You know, like whereas Offaly to me played lovely all through, and even against Dublin it was a tight match. I just felt that they were the better hurlers. Like looking at them, they just seemed to have more natural skill all the time. Getting the scores easier, like.
Michael, I was just going through it there of the 2022 minor final and lads who played in their provincial finals recently. I'm sure there's a few more panelists who didn't play the last day. But just in terms of lads who featured the last day from the 2022 final, Tip had 12 players that progressed from that age grade 2 years ago, and you've Paddy McCormack injured as well, so potentially it will be 13. Offaly had 10 players who played in that minor final, featured in that final, plus obviously you would have Dan Ravenhill as well. But then also, just that key experience that ye had last year, you've 8 starters plus 3 subs that featured in that final against Cork last year who were going to be playing again. It was 30,000+ last year in Thurles, unbelievable occasion. They have that under their belts. They're used to that. They're used to a crazy crowd following them the whole time. That I'm back in Tipperary all the way, don't get me wrong, but you do have the edge on that.
Yeah, no, and it's a great experience for young fellas to have, and even playing an All-Ireland final, and things didn't go right for them, probably against Cork, and they were probably roughed up somewhat, and I'm sure they'll be ready for it to be very physical. I'm sure Tip will not adopt the same approach, but I'm sure it will be physical because Tip would see themselves, and I'm sure the Tip management see Tip as a more physical team than Offaly, and I think that's totally warranted. So I do think they will be it'll be fairly rough and ready. Cyril, you just mentioned there about, I think this is probably it's the 2 hardest working teams in the country anyway. Whatever about the skill of the Offaly lads, they are ferocious workers, and they don't, a lost cause doesn't exist. And I think there's a great buy-in as a result of that as well with the silk in the class. There's a great buy-in from the public because you know those lads are going to go and die till the very, very last ball. So yeah, it's going to be a brilliant game. Offaly bring in the bit of heartbreak from 2 years ago at the same venue against the bulk of the same players, and like this is our 3rd All-Ireland in a row between minor and under 20, and like there comes a time when you do need to go and win one, and the Leinsters have been unbelievable, but this would kind of finish the job, shall we say. And you know, you talk about next year's under 20 Offaly team being better, and it probably will be better, but look at, as Cyril says there, Cork were supposed to be the best team in the country this year. They maybe weren't. They were a little bit more unheralded last year. Last year they won the All-Ireland. This year they were beaten in the Munster final. It doesn't always work out like that. So you just grab the opportunity in front of you with both hands, and you take what you can get while it's there.
Yeah, well, like you look at Offaly at the moment, like as you say, look at the euphoria after winning the Leinster title. Can you imagine All Ireland? And the same with Tip, like they needed an injection after the seniors not doing well. And next thing out comes the minors, but out comes the under 20s and perform very, very well to get over a hotly fancied Cork crew, like, you know, and they're there on merit as well. They won't have, you know, it's fantastic to see you have the stats here about how many came through even the year before, the year ahead of their time. It just shows you what you need. Like, and a lot of these Offaly lads are on the senior panel. Probably the Tip senior panel mightn't be as many, but to see they're probably stronger. It's harder to get on it. But like Offaly's future really is this team, you know. Now so is Tip's. They'll get off it, but more Offaly than Tip, because if Offaly can win this team can be the senior team, say, in a year. Like it's going to, most of these are going to graduate to senior level, and they will have, if they can win, they have a title behind them, but also they have great experience, and even of the crowd, they have that as well, which is a plus on a big day.
Just speaking of the crowd, delighted to have Cormac Egan on board. Cormac, great to have you on. How are you?
Hi lads, how are we? Yeah, all good, all good.
I know you're not involved this year, but you must be buzzing. And just even we're talking about the experience the Offaly lads will have kind of coming into the game of playing in that All-Ireland final last year. What's it like to have that sort of support and following behind you? I was there in Thurles that day. I was there in Carlow, another kind of mad night. What's that like as a player?
Yeah, it's mad, all right. I guess these lads are well used to it. They had it with the minors as well. So you know, Saturday will be no different for them. But yeah, it is amazing at underage games to get this many people at it. You know, you're thinking you probably wouldn't have that much of a crowd until like a big Leinster game or something like that. But yeah, I guess to have that many people at an underage game is massive for us, and it's kind of that 16th man you saw that day down in Carlow kind of got us over the line. So yeah, it plays a massive part, and it's an amazing experience.
Offaly people are unique in that, Cormac, as well. You had it with the under-20 football as well. Once that train gets rolling along the tracks, everybody is aboard and everybody's hanging on somewhere.
Yeah, no, we're great to get behind the team. I think Offaly people were just dying for a team that was going to have a bit of success. That we were starved of it for so long, and I guess the killer with our under-20 team was it was during COVID, so we missed out on a lot of the crowds. Like, it was limited numbers over in Portlaoise for a game against Cork, and I think most people got up to Croker for the one up in Dublin. But I think we're great people to get behind our teams, and this is such a great team to follow because they play great hurling, and they're amazing to watch, like Screeny and boys like that. So we're a great out county to get behind teams.
Cyril, would you like to have this man operating at centre forward?
I'd love him to centre forward. Hardy Pond.
An old school, Cyril, old school direct runner.
Well, you see, you won't win any final with 15 powder lads. You need a worker thrown in. We'll say the unpolished diamond. You need everyone in kind of a mix, like.
Yeah.
You can see Cork at the moment, the senior fellas, like, they've Connolly full forward, like, and he's hustling and bustling and letting down his head, and he's coming like a train. You see the Galway footballers, the lads they're playing, they're like JCBs, like. You need the mix, like, and you didn't like have the legs of Screeny, and there'd be lads saying to me, Screeny's too light, I want to put him in the gym, and I keep saying, stop, lads, stop. You put that lad in the gym and build up the muscle, you'll have muscle, but you'll have no movement. Leave him alone. He'll develop himself, like, because that's what he had.
I think Screeny's things are his feet. His feet are Screeny's.
It's a hard thing to do. Just watch his feet, or if you're looking at going well for Waterford, it's a hard thing to do. Don't look at him. Just watch his feet.
Yeah.
Watch. It's the movement of the feet. We have a little lad here he's injured at the moment. There is from Capitagle. What's his name again? Collins. He's very light. Mine's just Screeny, but the thing, it's like he's able to move, but it's his feet. It isn't that he doesn't have to sprint 100 yards. It's just his feet. He's moved his head to get him into and out of place. Screeny is the very same. Because if you said to Screeny, what are you doing? I don't think he'd know what he's doing. Like, he just does it instinct, which is what you want.
Can I just ask you, Cyril, quickly about lads like that coming through and lads that maybe aren't as maybe well filled out as other fellas? There's a certain amount you need to do and should do, but there's a certain amount of natural kind of filling out as well that he will, like, his body shape will change in time, and you don't want to take away, like I always say, what brings him to the dance is his hurling and his skill and his feet. You don't want to negate that.
You see, you're so right, Michael. A lot of the thing now, they're going to the gym very early. First of all, the bodies aren't ready for the gym work they're doing, and they'll tell you how much they're lifting, kgs, and they're building up. They look lovely for modelling a suit or clothes, but it doesn't do the hurl, like they need to do that, but it doesn't do the hurling any good. In actual fact, with the muscle built up, you slow them down, and if you slow Screeny down, or this young lad I'm talking about, John Collins, their game is gone. You know what I mean? You can untold damage, and then you'll find with all the gym work, they're getting the hamstrings pulled. And if they look at it closely, you'll find half the time it's not a hamstring, it's coming from the lower back. But it's all going back to the gym. Instead of lifting the weights, heavy weights, they should be doing more reps of light weights. Maybe a 7 pound, you might think I'm crazy, a 7 pound bag, a sugar bag in each hand, and do 1,000 reps. You'll do the same, but you won't damage any muscle. You won't get any hamstrings out. Like, it's just a different way of doing it. But they're mad into it and they want to look well, which is fine. But it doesn't help, especially hurling, because a lot of that is an instinct, and you need the wrist and the flick. It's different for rugby or that.
We're not going to argue too much with a man who has won 3 All-Ireland senior titles. But, Cyril, the last one I'll put to you. Who wins on Saturday night?
Well, I just have the feeling that it's Offaly's year. You know what I mean? Like, they've been this team has been kind of coming, and it maybe was very hard luck. Like, now, they'd be hard to beat, and they have a fierce tradition. But I just, I have a feeling that everyone will be against Tips. Against Tips. Now, maybe the ref won't, and maybe he'll have the biggest say. There's a saying here, Michael, that a good umpire is better than a bad corner forward. So, like, I think Offaly.
Well, thanks very much, Cyril, for joining us. Really appreciate it, and we'll chat to you again soon, hopefully.
Pleasure is mine. See you, lads. Bye.
Cheers, sir. Good man.
Great to have him. Cormac, what was it like playing in those matches or that match in particular against Cork last year? Like, I was at it, Michael was at it, 30,000 plus crowd roaring as your names are called out. What was that like as an experience?
Yeah, it was surreal. Jeez, it was a crazy game. You know, it was frantic pace, and the pace kind of caught us nearly in the second half. But yeah, it was some occasion. You know, for an underage game to have that many people at it. Yeah, it was crazy altogether. We're great out of people to support and show up in numbers and make our voices heard. So yeah, it felt like we definitely had a 16 man, and then obviously the game didn't go our way, but I definitely think Saturday now will be a lot closer, and hopefully the boys can get the job done.
Yeah, you had a 16 man. Cork should have been down to 14, but I'm not going to put you on the spot with that one too much, Cormac. But do you get used to having that massive bandwagon behind you at these games? Like, I would say it's unbelievable to play in front of it, but like, did it ever take you by surprise, and do you get used to it?
Oh, well, it definitely took me by surprise last year. You know, we had the 20s footballers. I was just saying to Michael and Cyril that like that was during COVID, so we probably didn't have the crowds that we would have had if it wasn't during COVID. So I guess having the crowd we had last year, like them minor boys, like the Screeny, the boys who've come up, they were well used to it. They had it at minor for 2 or 3 big games, you know, in Portlaoise and down in Nolan Park there before as well. So yeah, even last year, Jays, it took me by complete surprise. You know, we played Dublin in O'Connor Park, and it was the most full O'Connor Park I've ever seen until last week or 2 weeks ago against Kilkenny. So yeah, no, it's amazing to play with that following behind you, and even to be walking down the street and lads, you know, wishing you the best luck at the weekend or whatever. It makes some difference.
You're obviously kicking ball at the minute, Cormac. When you see the lads in the McDonagh final and that great crew coming and having been involved with them, do you think like hurling could be in your future at some stage at senior level, or what's your kind of thought process on that?
Yeah, look, I'd love to hurl for Offaly again. It's definitely not something I've written out. Like, I just want to go back now and have a good year with Tullamore and kind of reassess it then next year going forward. Look, I love playing football for Offaly as well. I think bar the last couple of weeks, I thought we'd had a good year with Offaly. It kind of has fallen apart, unfortunately, the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I was loving playing football. I still am loving playing football for Offaly. But yeah, just go back, and if I have a good year hurling with Tullamore and playing football with Tullamore, we'll see and reassess it next year and see what we think.
So when I look at the team that you played on last year in the All-Ireland final against Cork, I'll just name out some of the players who will be playing again this weekend, or players who came on, because you had quite a few, 11 in total. Rory Kelly, James Mahon, Terguinen, Breckin Kavanagh, Colin Spain, Cathal King, Shane Rigney, Dan Burke, Conor Doyle, Barry Egan and Adam Screeny. And of course you would have Dan Ravenhill if he was available, so that would be another. But could you talk to me about some of those players and what they bring to this team? Yeah,
they're unbelievable players. I guess it's a right crew of hurlers that we've seen since minor level. Kind of, they were talked about even underage, winning, I think it was Tony Forstall's or things like that at 14, 13 years of age.
They were actually beaten by this not this tip crew. The tip crew that beat them at minor, beat them in a Forstall, and beat them again in the minor final, which is actually unheard of. I don't think that's ever happened. But yeah, it's gas. Yeah. You would have heard the same things as I would have, Cormac. That is a crew coming, like, and these guys they're fairly living up to it too.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. And yeah, no, the right crew of players. I guess the thing last year was like we were the older lads, but nearly felt like we were being carried by the younger lads. Like they just bring some energy to the place, and like, geez, they have some kind of bond with Leo there over the last couple of years. Like I obviously had Leo at minor level. I know what he brings. He's an unbelievable manager. But like a Huey there and Johnny P as well. They all came together from minor up to 20s last year, and yeah, no, they brought some energy around the place. And geez, there's some hurlers, but they work like dogs as well. Geez, the work rate of even Screeny there. Like I know when I was inside for the 20 footballers, all I was thinking about was getting the ball and trying to score, make something happen. But Screeny does more work than any other player nearly on the field, maybe other than Dan Burke. Like, so they're just the right crew of players. They've unbelievable attitudes, and they're so grounded. Like they never seem to get too ahead of themselves. Like the amount of success they've had, obviously. Look, hopefully they'll add an All-Ireland to the Leinsters they've had, but geez, the following they have and the amount of success they've had over the last couple of years, they've really, driven things on completely.
They're very level, aren't they? By all accounts, like it'd be so easy to lose the run of yourself, even after that minor and everything. It would be very they're after they were beaten in the minor final. The same crew won the Leinster A colleges, then they won the Leinster Under-20, the team you were on. the vast majority of the same crew have won another Leinster Under-20 and back in an All-Ireland final. Like, you know, especially in our county, it's very easy. Like, people that only love to be buying you this and buying you that and blowing smoke up your whatever, and then try to kick you when they're down. But the lads have managed to keep it on a really even keel, haven't they?
Yeah, I think. Look, they just love their hurling. They're so dedicated to it. I couldn't believe it even last year. The dedication they have to the game. They just never seem to let that faze them, and everything's just about the next day. No matter what's happening, it's about the next day. I think losing that minor All Ireland, I know at the time it was a killer, and I was nearly crying on the field as well that day. But you know, it's driven them on. I remember talking to Dan Ravenhill after it and saying how much he's driven on since it. And you know, he's obviously a big loss at the weekend, but like to see the hurling, the level they've gone to hurling wise in the last year, that they rose from minor level. Jeez, it just shows the work that they're putting in, and obviously the work of Leo and Johnny and the boys.
Cormac, I'm sure you're busy with your own football throughout this past season, but would you have had a chance to see the opposition this coming weekend? Like, do you know what Tip are bringing based on form?
Yeah, so I watched Tip and Cork there, which was a great contest. Again, I think Tip are a serious side. You don't get to an All-Ireland final unless you're not a serious side. But yeah, Cork are obviously a quality side as well. I think the one thing that evens it out a small bit is probably Tip aren't as big as Cork were last year. Cork were massive last year, kind of told on the day. But yeah, look, it'll be a serious contest. Tip have some serious hurlers. So yeah, Offaly will have their hands full for sure. I think it'll come down to within a couple of points.
Just a question in from David Hogan there. He says, what is Tony Gleason's role with the under-20s? I believe he's involved with Cormac last year. Yeah, Tony's from Burgess, very, very well got as a coach. And he was part of Shane Hand's management team in Kilcormac, and he's one of the lead coaches, I believe. And I even heard Liam Hoare talking about all the various set plays that they have, and particularly he seems to be doing an awful lot of work from puckouts. So it's nice to have Shane. It's nice to have the old enemy in the camp as well. I'm sure he knows the Tip setup and the personnel for the inside out as well. So it's good to be pulling from lads from different places. You get different intel.
The way you're going on there, Verney, I think Tip needn't bother showing up at all. Just hand you out the cup and let you parade around Nolan Park.
Well, you can. I'm sure you'll cut out some sort of a clip and probably tag Tip GA in it or something like that. But I think they'll be very little in it, lads. I think it'll be very tight. I think it'll be very similar to that minor final. But yeah, no, an absolute belter of a game. And just even the crack with the tickets in Offaly all week. And there's a good few of them after coming back they disappeared into the ether, but they're back in the universe now, and there seems to be been sent back to the clubs or whatever. But I hazard a guess and say that there could be 20,000 Offaly people there, lads, which is it's mad. Like, basically the Offaly 20s are kind of been supported, maybe like the Cork seniors are being supported at the minute, but we've a population of just over 80,000, so that means probably 1 in 4 Offaly people are going to be in Nolan Park on Saturday night, which is bizarre, like, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. It's kind of a case nearly of what are you at if you're not going to it nearly at this stage. Like, you're talking anyone on the street. It's obviously the ticket fiasco was a bit of hassle, but like I think most people should be sorted out by now.
Shano, just quickly, Shano, there's a question after coming in there, or he's mentioned Darragh McCarthy. How good is Darragh McCarthy? We obviously saw the winning point the last day. There was talk of him being sprung for the seniors, which obviously would have undone the under-20 campaign. This lad, like he won a Hearty earlier on this year as well, didn't he? Yeah, this lad is music by all accounts. It could be you're looking at Screeny probably one end and Dan Burke maybe, and then you're looking at maybe him the other end. He'd be definitely leading the line anyway.
Yeah, and you don't even know the names of the other Tip players, so you're
Senan Butler is another fella that can bag goals, all right.
Yeah, and Senan Butler has been a real danger man. I think Cork, and Brendan Cummins actually mentioned more that Cork had a sweeper the last day than necessarily Tip. Maybe both were happy to have it. But Senan Butler had scored a hat-trick against Cork the previous day, so he's a serious danger man. But like with Darragh McCarthy, like he was really good with Nina CBS. And against St. Raphael's, the freeze went against him a little bit, and he missed probably for him an easy goal chance at the end. And I was like, how's it going to affect his season with the 20s? But he's been unbelievable. And he scored 3 from play the last day and 7 frees. But in the second half, he scored 3 frees that he himself had won. And the Cork backs just could not deal with him. He's like pace, directness, and he's also a target man. So I think he's been fantastic so far this year. But Cormac, what I'd ask you is, do you think, is James Mahon the man for him? Would he have that bit of pace? Like, he certainly seems to have the power.
Yeah, James Mahon would probably be our most powerful defender. I'd say maybe even Rory Kelly is a very, very tight man marker, and he's very hard to get away. I'd say between pace and power, Rory probably have it. Obviously James is a small bit small. That's the only thing you'd worry about with McCarthy. But like, I trust either of the boys now. They're two serious defenders, two very serious defenders. Obviously, when he was a bit taller, he'd probably line up with someone who probably doesn't have as much pace as McCarthy does. But like, yeah, I'd say between Kelly and Mahon, I'd probably lean towards Kelly maybe.
I'd be the same. I'd be very surprised if Rory Kelly doesn't pick him up. He's generally picked up the better of the two corner forwards, and he's just, I know he gave away a penalty the last day, but he's after getting a good bit stronger, Cormac, I'd say as well, even the last year, isn't he?
I think he's even after getting faster, to be honest, Michael.
Yeah.
I think, as an athlete, he's after coming on a long way. I think he was carrying a lot of injuries last year, so he was I think he's got a good run of it this year. You're seeing it there now in the way he's playing.
On the flip of it, who's going to pick up Screeny, would you say?
I'd say Chris O'Donnell will, and he's a very good marker, but you're going to need help.
Good actor as well, in fairness.
Yeah, excellent. But like, Screeny has such good feet, and if he gets good ball out in front of him, like, even go back to the final against Cork last year, you and I were sitting side by side up on the high stand in Thurles, and some of the movement he made, like going out to the sideline, out near the 45, turning and popping over the bar, like, it doesn't matter. Chris O'Donnell, you put Sean Finn on him, if he gets that sort of, if he has that ball played in front of him, he's going to be difficult for anybody. So it won't be just down to him. But like, will Offaly try and work it out from the back, Cormac? Because I think this is something where Tip turned over Cork time and again, and they've good hurlers too, of course. And I just wonder, like, if you're forced to go long, do you have the ball winners? And if you go short, I'd be thinking, geez, Tip could turn you over occasionally here. What do you think?
Yeah, see, like, I guess, like, Offaly's half-forward line is quite small. You know, Ridney's probably your only aerial threat there that you'd look would probably compete on puckouts. Doyle can as well, but he probably hasn't been in the form he'd hoped for so far. But like, Doyle could explode here on Saturday and start plucking ball and popping over the bar. Like, that's the kind of player he is. But yeah, I do feel like Offaly definitely have the capabilities to work it out. Like the likes of Turin, boys like that who have pace can work it out through Tip. But then again, like, if you can get early ball in, maybe, you know, a short puck out to cornerback and get early ball into Adam, you know, that's the ball he lives for. If he can try get as much kind of diagonal early ball across to him, like, he'll feast in there. So yeah, look, Offaly should be able to hopefully mix it up and go both ways. But like, it obviously depends on how much pressure the Tip forwards are putting on. Like, if they put on the same pressure they did last day, it will be hard to get out. But Offaly definitely have the hurdles to do it.
Just quickly, just looking back to the Kilkenny game, Offaly played short in the second half to avoid the Kilkenny half back line. Even the same the last day against the Breeze. They should be well capable of doing that.
Okay, well, look, delighted to say we're joined now by John Bubbles O'Dwyer. Bubbles, we're just talking about the Under-20 All-Ireland final here. Are you pumped for this one?
Yeah, should be a great game. You know, two good teams. Offaly after a good win against Dublin, and Tipperary, I suppose, lucky to get through against Cork last Friday. But you know, there's a bit of a rivalry there between the two teams after the minor All-Ireland a couple of years ago. So look, it'll be a good game, sellout crowd, probably 75% Offaly supporters down there compared to 25% for Tipperary. So it should be a great occasion for both the players and supporters.
Who do you see as the key men in this game? I suppose it's going to be obvious enough answers.
Well, look, from an Offaly point of view, I suppose everyone's going to look at Adam Screeny, like, you know, for what he's done the last maybe 2-3 years. You know, but from a Tip point of view, I think maybe Adam Daly midfield is probably key for him, and Oisin O'Donoghue has had a storming year as well, and then obviously, look, you have Darren McCarthy inside. I'm not sure, you might know more about Paddy McCormick. Is he back or is he available? But so I'd say
hey, Bubbles, there's no way he's going to say he's back anyway. I can tell you that.
You're dead right. Say nothing about it. Don't let the Offaly lads have anything here.
But like, even that Oisin O'Donoghue, like, we haven't spoken about him yet, and a commenter said he scored 412 this year. This lad turned 18 back in, I think, January, Bubbles. So he's another 2 years. He's been a revelation.
Yeah, he's another 2 years, and he's a huge young lad as well. Like, he's been absolutely brilliant. The full back line, I think, for Tipperary as well have been key. You know, there's a couple lads dropped. Jack Quinlan got a bad injury there. He's not available. Chris O'Donnell stepped up, but I'm just going to say my own clubman Podjo Dwyer, he's probably going to be picking up Screeny, I'd imagine, on Saturday. So a big day for him, but no better buckle. He's coming from good stock there from his older brother Killian, having won 2 All-Irelands already. So that'll be a key battle. Two fast hurlers, and look, not too many people are able to shackle Adam Screeny. So it'll be a very interesting battle there inside in the corner. Yeah,
and like a sort of a magical forward like Screeny. How much do you enjoy watching him? Because he's all wrists, you're all wrists. What do you make of watching him?
He's unbelievable. Look, at the start of the year, I suppose this is his first year being available for the senior team, and people are saying he might struggle because he's a bit small. But even the last day against Dublin, Dublin were really aggressive and tackling hard. But he's very good at tackling. He puts himself about. He doesn't shirk the challenges of putting in these tackles. I remember there at one stage a cornerback trying to come out right in the very corner, and he just stood him up and he held him up and he turned him over. So he loves the battle as well. As much as he is an unbelievable hurler, he loves the battle as well, and he loves lads getting into him, and he loves giving it back to him. And that's one thing that comes from a good forward, and that's one of the reasons why he will survive at senior level, because he doesn't mind the physical stuff, even though he wouldn't be the biggest man in the world.
Yeah, Michael?
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree with that. I'd say his greatest asset nearly is his work rate, actually, and he has a lot of assets. But if that's so they always said about the likes of Henry or that, he was the hardest tackler in the game, the one that worked, and things that happen for you when you work like that as well. Cormac, I'm just going to let you go. And lastly, is it stupid to ask a prediction, or do I know what way you're leaning?
I'd have to back the lads now. I'll give Offaly by maybe 2 or 3 points. I think it's going to be an unbelievable game, an unbelievable occasion, but I think the boys will get over the line. Kind of the heartbreak of the last 2 or 3 years is kind of hopefully will do the job.
And the last question, how many young lads have you seen going around with your haircut in the last couple of years?
Too many, I'd say. Too many. I've ruined the younger generation in Offaly. So I apologise to any parents out there of Offaly children. Unfortunately, they've kind of it's kind of taken off, unfortunately.
Good man. Thanks a million, Cormac. Appreciate that.
See you, lads.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Good man.
But what sort of buzz are you getting around the local area, Bubbles, in terms of this final?
Well, I'm not living around the local area, but it's kind of been quiet enough from a Tipperary point of view. Kind of the headlines are kind of being dominated from an Offaly point of view. If you look at the crowd that they brought to the Leinster final last Wednesday, it was huge compared to maybe a smaller crowd that was down in the Gaelic grounds for the Munster final. Now, I suppose one thing to look at that, the timing of that game was absolutely shocking from a GA perspective, having it on at 8 o'clock. But look, Offaly are obviously coming in massive numbers, but Tip will be quietly confident, especially after getting over Cork, even though Cork were probably the better team, but Tip beat them already in the championship. So it is hard to beat 2 teams in the 1 year, or the same team twice in the 1 year. Sorry. So look, I think the buzz is at a minimum for the time being. But I think once Saturday comes, I think Tipperary people that have been following this team would be pretty confident.
It's funny you mentioned that, Bubbles. It was thrown in at 8. Allegedly, I believe Limerick had used to the Gaelic grounds from 5 to 7, and
that was it.
Yeah, nobody was let in basically till after that, and it would have taken obviously teams and TG Catter etc. to get in. But I sense from your, Bubbles, and I sense from you as well, Shane. I think Cummins will be tapping into this. Just the crowd that Offaly have, the expectation that Offaly have. You definitely will be flipping that and saying there's 20,000 Offaly people coming here thinking that these boys are going to win in All Ireland and we're going to be the party poopers, and you can get motivation from that, because when you think some people are probably arriving thinking Offaly are going to win All Ireland and they want to be part of that or whatever. And Tip spoiled it 2 years ago, and I'm sure to be plenty of things that the boys will have to say on Saturday that will easily kind of motivate the lads in that regard, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say so. If you were looking at this Tip team at the start of the year, you probably wouldn't have been tipping them to get to an All-Ireland final or winning a Munster final, because I think as a 12 of the starting team are underage again next year, and I'm sure Offaly, I wouldn't know it off by heart now, but I'm sure Offaly are in a similar boat. But look, Offaly haven't got there last year, getting there this year, and then next year then is probably the team as well that Offaly are probably hoping for that will go on and win an All-Ireland. But it's probably come a year earlier from Cummins' point of view. Obviously, he'll take a Munster championship and he'll take getting to an All-Ireland final, but it's probably come a year sooner than what he thought for this group. But look, they'll definitely be using that. Look, again, 2 years ago, they probably stole it off Offaly, last-minute goal by Paddy McCormack. But I reckon they'll be going in very, very confident to this. I think myself that Tip have the slightly better hurlers. They mightn't have a lad like Adam Screeny, but I think overall in the overall team, I think they're just slightly stronger. And look, I haven't seen a whole pile of Offaly. The only game I saw was the Leinster final, so that's all I'm basing it off. Whereas I've seen a good bit of Tipperary. So look, it'll be a massive game, massive occasion for both teams. But hopefully it comes out in the pitch. Like if you look at the All Ireland 2 years ago, it was an unbelievable game. So I'd be hoping for something similar on Saturday.
Was it always obvious, Bubbles, with Cummins, like you would have played towards the tail end of his career, was it obvious that he was going to go in coaching management? I know he did a good stint in Kerry as well, I think. And listen, a lot of people who say he's a potential future Tipperary manager in a couple of years as well.
Look, you would have, the way he kind of thought about the game and the way he looked at the game, like you would have said that he eventually would have went into management. So he's probably getting sick of getting the big bucks off RTE above for the Sunday game. So maybe he's just trying his hand out with management now. But look, you would have saw it in him. He was down in Kerry, I think, for 4 years. He was always kind of that coach, kind of on-field coach for his club, Ballybacon. So you would have saw it out of the players that you play with that he definitely would have been one that would have went into management. And look, if he keeps going the way he's going, he might be a potential Tip senior manager. I don't think he'll want it next year if Liam Cahill decides to go, which I don't think he will. I think Liam will stay on. But if Liam only stays for the 3 years, I think Brendan will probably be next in line along with the minor manager James Woodlock.
And actually, see, as you mentioned the minor, is that your cousin Owen that plays centre back?
Nephew, yeah.
Nephew, okay. You must be like delighted to see him go and win a Munster title there recently against Clare.
Yeah, it was brilliant for him. With two lads on the team, with my nephew Owen and Shane Ryan as well. So it was great for a small club like ourselves. Unfortunately, he has one over on me now. I never won an All Ireland, a Munster minor All Ireland, or a Munster minor, so he has that over me. Hopefully, they go on and win the All Ireland now. But he definitely has that one over me from when I played minor.
And I was actually looking at the under-21 title that you won in 2010, a week after the famous All Ireland win, stopping the drive for 5. And there was a huge crowd that day. And Tip had a goal after 29 seconds from Buggy O'Mara, and then you got one after 3 minutes. There was a huge crowd that day. What was it like? And I mean, I'm trying to think of the players this weekend, Offaly and Tipperary. What's it like playing as a kid in front of a massive crowd like that?
Yeah, it's huge. Like back then, it was under 21. I suppose I would have been the same age, I suppose, as Screeny now. Maybe like I was only after turning 18. I was only after turning 18. I think the week previous to the match. So. But it's massive. But when you're that age, especially for me, I was the child on the team. Like you had the likes of Paddy Maher and Brendan Maher and all them lads looking after me. There was 10 seniors on the panel that year. That played in that All Ireland final. I was only in there corner forward or full forward just to make up the final 5. But for me, I just enjoyed the occasion. Went out. We got a great start in that. I think the crowd was well over 30,000 inside the stadium, and obviously the reason for that was it was only 6 days after winning the senior All Ireland, and that had a massive help to it. And look, when the match starts, you don't really see the crowd or anything like that. Obviously you hear them, but it doesn't really play into effect. But for 17, 18-year-olds, like it is a big deal, to go down and play in front of a full house. But the majority of these players had it 2 years ago in the minor final, and they would have been 2 years younger. So I'm sure they'll all deal with it fairly easy, and players will deal with it in different ways. I would have had a different way of dealing with it. We'll say Brendan Maher, Paddy Maher was the captain, and they were well used to them big days. That was probably my first big day in a Tipperary jersey. So it was, look, for me it was fine. I always relished them kind of days, but everyone deals with it differently.
And is there ever a day where you're like, I really embraced it and loved it, or was there ever a day where you're like, geez, I found it difficult playing in front of so many people today?
No, I never really looked at it that way. The one that comes into mind is the 14 All Ireland, the first game against Kilkenny. The lad, Eamon O'Shea was giving a team talk in the little warm up area, and myself and Cahill Barrett were standing across from each other, and the two of us were smiling and laughing at each other. So we were only two young lads getting ready to go out and play an All Ireland final. There was lads ready to take the door off the hinges going out, and myself and Barrett were just having a little chuckle to each other. So that was the way that I kind of approach games and treated games. Look, as you get older, obviously that changes and you become, I wouldn't say more serious. Like obviously we were taking it serious, but you actually think about it a lot more and probably worry about it a lot more, which hinders you. But when you're at this age, I think it's like water off a duck's back. I remember being down in Ennis in 2012 under-21. I was the captain. We lost to Clare by a last minute goal. You know, again, we were going out there, pressurised situation. Clare, being brilliant minor underage teams, were red hot favourites, and they barely snuck it by a last minute goal. And we were the way better team. And so we all just went out that day and just performed like we were in training. So that's the way both these teams will be going for it. And I'm sure that they'll all perform to the highest level and give the supporters a massive game.
Just what you say about 14, Bubbles, like the innocence of youth, isn't it? Like it's when you don't think about stuff too much, that's when you usually do your best stuff. When you get older, then you start thinking about things and you can beat yourself up and you nearly forget why you started and why you enjoyed it at the start.
Well, that's it. But like it obviously it was as serious back then as to what it is now. Like it was just. We were always told coming in as young lads, like an aim obviously would have said to me, like, just go out and play like you're playing for your club, or go out and play like you're above in training and you're just basically messing around on the field and, you know, do what you're good at. Like, and that was the message that I always got off the coaches. Like, you know, don't try and be someone else out here, or don't try and do something that you usually wouldn't do. Go out and do what you do. Like, you're here for that reason, and that's what's after getting you here now. So there's no point changing now. And like I'm sure Leo O'Connor will be saying it, and Brendan Cummins will be saying it, like, just lads, go out and enjoy yourselves. Like, and at the end of the day, it's a game of hurling, and there's a lot more important things than hurling. But to these young lads, this is complete life, and, you know, and so the most pressure that these lads will be under will be the pressure that they're putting themselves under. You know, they won't be getting that from coaches or management or families or clubs or anything like that. All they'll be getting is complete support from them. But the pressure that they'll be putting themselves on, you know, that can go one way or the other, and you'd be just hoping from a spectator point of view that it all comes out in the pitch, because if the game is anything like it was 2 years ago in the All-Ireland minor final, like, we'll be in for a big treat on Saturday.
Can I just ask you quickly, actually, and I'm sure you would have marked him several times in training, and Shane was not going to talk too much about him because he's his brother, obviously, but was it always likely that Paddy would be a coach as well? He's been brought in this year. It's actually interesting. Brendan Cummins brought Paddy in as coach, one of his head coaches. Leo O'Connor in his third year, I should say, Cummins did. Leo O'Connor brought in Tony Gleeson from Burgess, who you probably know as one of the lead coaches for Offaly as well. So it's good to see both management teams kind of mixing it up. But like, when Paddy wasn't pulling your jersey or giving you the hand of the hurl, like, did you think that might be a decent coach down the time? Did he think about the game a good bit as well?
Well, I suppose in the early years that I would have known Paddy, you probably wouldn't have said that he would have went into coaching. But then it was maybe kind of in his later years that when I knew him, that you probably thought, geez, this lad will get into coaching, and he started thinking about the game differently and the way he approached it. And so if you look at the last 10 years for Paddy, like, he would have been a kind of a marauding, aggressive cornerback to realising that maybe that his legs are gone a small bit, he went to a fullback. You know, so the way he played the game would have been different. I wouldn't have said that he would have went down the coaching route, but look, what do I know? He's obviously doing a good job. But he wouldn't have been a lad that would have stood out as a coach. But I suppose they might make good coaches. Good cornerbacks might make good coaches. They might turn young lads into good hardy lads, and then worry about the hurling after that.
Yeah, well, he's always had plenty to say, so he definitely wouldn't be caught for a few words in the training pitch. Anyway.
Says the biggest mouthpiece to ever come out of Bursley.
Well, there was a compliment there about your goal against Galway back in 2016, but there was another goal I wanted to ask you about. Do you remember a league game against, could have been Kilkenny around 2014, 15, 13, where the ball came in, hit your helmet and went into the back of the net? Did you even realise that it happened?
Not when it happened. No, it was only after we looked back after that I realised it hit me head. But that's what you get for wrestling with cornerbacks.
Going out there and scoring headers. In terms of Tipperary, like, obviously we're very disappointed with how the season went. What do you think is holding Tipperary back at the moment? Is it the raw materials? Like, underage success would suggest not. Where are we falling down?
Well, it's not from the lack of underage success. You know, if you look at Tip 1-2 in a row under 20, under 21, and then Cork came on then and won 3 out of the next 4. Like, but it takes a long time for that to transfer into senior. Like, if you took 2010 out of it, like, which was out of this world, the amount of players that were part of both panels, like, it's very hard to go from under 21 to senior. Never mind now under 20 to senior. Like, the difference that 1 year makes is massive, like, for development of a person and as a player. So but the bulk of them lads now are 25 or 24, 25, like the likes of Jake Morris and Garrod O'Connor and these lads. Like, so look, to say where it's breaking down, it's kind of hard, because I wouldn't be privy to knowing what's going on in, like, look, I'd be friends with a lot of the lads, but I tend not to ask them any questions, because I do a small bit of media and podcasting and stuff, like, so I tend not to ask. But look, they just seem to be a bit flat, or like, and what I said the other day was, and I just took 3 players for example. Like, if you take Brendan Maher, Padraig Maher, and Seamus Callanan, 3 of the greatest hurlers ever to come out of Tipperary, and you replace them with whoever it is. So we'll say Jake Morris, Garrod O'Connor, and we'll say Conor Bowe. Like, no matter who you replace them with, they're not going to be at the level that the 3 lads were at. And we were privileged to have them lads, from some of them from 2008, Shamey 2008, and then the lads in 2010. Like, we were privileged to have them lads for the last 10, 12, 14 years. But no matter who you replace them with, the caliber of player, and this is nothing against any Tipperary player that goes out there, it's going to be very hard to replace them as players. But then on the other side of it then is, in the dressing room, I probably never met 3 other lads as good in the dressing room to talk to people and to encourage people and to just bring the kind of group together. Like, so to try and replace that is the hardest thing. Obviously, the players that are there at the minute are very good players. It's just they're not going to be at the level that them 3 boys in particular were at for over 10 years for Tipperary. Like.
What you're talking about there, Bubbles, is trying to replace, like, the heart and soul of a team. Whatever about what happens on the pitch, it's like, sounds like them boys were the heart and soul of the dressing room as well.
Well, they would have been, like, like, if you go back through any interviews that Tipperary players would have done over the last number of years, like, Shamey would have popped up as the joker in the group a lot of times, like, for a lot of people. And like, the 3 of them were captain. 2 of them won captain in All-Ireland team. Paddy unfortunately didn't, but they would have brought the group together. But they would have drove standards, like, and if you drop below that standard, like, you'd be pulled up on it. Now, I don't know whether lads are being pulled up on it now, or if the standards aren't as high or whatever, like, but like, they're 3 legends of not only Tipperary hurling, but they're 3 legends of like, hurling nationwide, so, like, it's very hard to try and replace that. Like, and Shamey was there last year, and look, you have another one in Noel McGrath that's still there, but them 4 players, to try and replace them, like, we kind of would have thought back around 2012 or that, like, trying to replace Owen Kelly was going to be really difficult, like, but then Shamey kind of stepped up, and you had another few players then stepping in, like John McGrath and then Jason Ford coming in, like, but to have 3 players like that, and then James Barry as well kind of dropping out, another leader of the group, like, it's very hard to keep replacing these leaders and these quality players, like. And look, for Tip, they're just going to have to reset and have another rethink about it, and Liam and his coaching team will come back next year and try and put another plan in place.
Who'd be the best man to make the ball talk in training, would you have found over the years?
Noel McGrath, I suppose. He was unbelievable. He can do anything with that ball. Or Shamey as well was very skillful. But there's a lot of lads there like that. You could, like Ger Brown as well, when he first came into the senior setup, like, he was outrageous, like, after having an unbelievable under-21 year, and the year after he came in, and but Noel McGrath's vision and his skill is absolutely up there at the top, and obviously the latter end of his years, I was in there with Owen Kelly, and he's probably the greatest hurler ever to come out of Tipperary, so he's obviously up there. But you had loads of lads, like, the skill that you'd see in training is absolutely outrageous.
Just on that, Bubbles, if we ask someone else, your name would likely crop up in the conversation as well. Just on that, like, just talk to me about it's one thing being skillful or whatever at inter-county. It's another thing having to do everything you have to do nowadays, in particular, to get out on the pitch. And there's so many boxes that need to be ticked and so many elements that you need to do. Talk to me about that side. I'm sure you probably love the hurling side of it and just going out and hurling, but there was a hell of a lot of other stuff that had to be done that I imagine maybe was a little bit less enjoyable.
Oh, sure, look, that's the way everything is. Like, if you in your job, like, there's probably stuff in your job that you don't enjoy doing, and there's stuff that you do enjoy doing. But look, everything was difficult in the environment of hurling for Tipperary, like, because there's such high standards, and the hurling side of it came fairly naturally to me and to a lot of players. But look, you still have to do your running, you have to do your gym work, you have to do your nutrition, you have to do all this, like, and it is a full-time job, and you have to love it to be actually able to give 100% to it. When you're committed, like, if you're not able to give 100%, I think you're only going to let yourself down and let your teammates down. And that's why I probably stepped away at a time when I did, is because I stopped loving the game, and I stopped wanting to do that hard stuff that kind of got harder year on year on year. When you go in, like, in the gym, there's a great buzz around the gym and that, and so, but going back in November and having to go through a full slog again of running 100-meter, 100-meter runs in a training session and this sort of stuff, like, that's the stuff that kills you. And if you're not able to commit 100% to do that, like, it's going to be very, very hard to actually get it and to be able to get yourself to a level that you're going to be able to compete for championship. Like, if you look at the Limerick boys now, like, the physical attributes that 95% of them lads have, like, to be able to get yourself to a level like that takes a lot of hard work and a lot of commitment, and you have to love it to be able to do it, like. And if you don't, you're only going to fool yourself, I suppose, and let your management and your teammates down.
What players at the moment do you currently enjoy the most watching?
Jeez, that's a good question. See, it's kind of the individual kind of brilliance. There's still lots of it there, but Limerick are so structured, and because they're so structured, then the likes of Aaron Galland then is so brilliant. Like, what a hurler! What I love is probably the most thing I love is seeing a high ball coming in top of Aaron Galland, because it's the way he plays the ball in the air, the way he attacks the ball in the air is unbelievable. Like, I loved being competitive in the air as well. It was probably one of my best attributes. But to see Aaron Galland is absolutely unbelievable. To see where he went from to where he is now, the standards that he has is absolutely unbelievable. And look, I suppose Cian Lynch again, he has moments of magic the whole time as well. But to see who will be the best I'd be watching now. So I love watching John Donnelly as well. He's a completely different player to everyone else, but he goes about his business quietly. He works hard and he taps over his 4 or 5 scores every game. But for a player, I'd probably say Cian Lynch, and a word then for Peter Casey as well. Like, Peter Casey was unbelievable the way he plays the game as well. Unfortunately he's unavailable for the rest of the year, but what a hurler as well. Like, the way he goes around and plays the game.
Hey, no love for our defender, no.
No time for any of them now.
You're probably right.
Can you see Limerick being stopped this year? I mean, have you seen enough from Cork or Clare, for example? Kilkenny?
Well, look, there has to be a case made for it. Like, the only thing that might come back against Cork is the fact that they've beat Limerick already. Like, and to try and beat Limerick again is going to take a lot out of another team. And depending on who wins the Munster final, if Limerick win it, you'd expect Cork to get through their route from playing the winners of the Joe McDonagh and then playing the losers of Leinster. I'd be expecting Cork to come through and meeting either one of them teams then. So it's going to be a tough road from having to beat Limerick twice. They're going to have to beat Limerick twice to win All Ireland. It's as simple as that. Obviously, Clare come good again after their first loss. I probably still have them in second position at the minute. Just Cork are kind of on a bit of a hot streak, but again, Cork still lost their first 2 games, so there might be a bit of inconsistency still there. And Kilkenny probably haven't hit the heights of what they hit last year. So it's Limerick's to win. I wouldn't be anyway surprised if Clare won the Munster final, but that doesn't knock Limerick out of the championship, and that'll be the only worry. So Clare might put everything into winning that Munster final, and they might not get to an All Ireland final because they might have to come up against Cork, who could potentially beat them. But whoever wins the Munster final, I wouldn't discount him, but I'd still think it's going to be Limerick's All Ireland to lose.
And El Flakador is wondering, are you playing a bit of club at the moment, or what are you like in terms of injuries at the moment?
I had an operation there 4 weeks ago today, so I'm only back doing a small bit of jogging. So hopefully I'll be back at some stage during the year, but I'm only 4 weeks post-op, so it's a bit early yet.
Do you enjoy the club hurling? Like, do you enjoy just going back now after having finished up with Tip? I'm sure it's a lot less pressurized now.
Yeah, like last year I went back and I was loving the club hurling. And then unfortunately I got injured, and then I kept on trying to come back, and I was getting injections and all this sort of stuff, but none of them worked. So I actually missed the entire championship last year. I didn't play one county championship game last year, and then again tried to go back at the start of the year, and I was training away. I was doing a bit, getting back rehab and stuff like that, and then unfortunately got a reoccurrence of the injury again. So I ended up having to go for an operation. So since I finished up with Tip, I haven't played one championship game for the club.
Jesus, right, okay. Hopefully you'll right that wrong in a couple of months with a bit of luck.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Is there any player that you've had a great on-field relationship with? You know the way you see this, some players seem to have telepathic relationships. Did you have that with anyone?
Sure. I suppose I had it with Noel. I had it with Shamey. I suppose Shamey is probably the one that stands out. I suppose the two of us probably played most of our. Well, I played most of my career inside with Shamey. The latter kind of years, I kind of went out the field a bit. But yeah, I'd say Shamey and Noel, especially when Noel went out midfield and centre forward, like he'd pick you out from anywhere. And then John McGrath as well, like, as you know yourself, Shane, from watching them, like even in club hurling, like sure them lads can do anything with the ball, like, but for one, if I was to pick one man it would be Shamey, just the way that we kind of would have fed off each other in the inside line.
And Nisha Waldron has asked, after asking this a few times, how much would you pay to get Niall Bergen back with Killing All Bubbles, some hurler?
Jeez, if it was 5 years ago, I'd say I'd pay any amount of money. Niall now at this stage is what, 36 maybe. So he's probably gone a bit too long. But Niall Bergen growing up was probably the best hurler in the club, if not the county, at minor level, under 21 level as well. And Niall went off to pursue other things. What a loss though. I remember he came back 1 year for us and he was unbelievable. You could play him anywhere from wing back to corner forward. He was an unbelievable player. Kieran Bergen, as you remember, he played for Tipperary. Niall, the brother, like if we had the two of them for longer in Kilnall, who knows what we would have won. But he was absolutely unbelievable. The best underage hurler I probably saw in the county growing up.
I'll just finish off with a quick Q&A, if you don't mind, Bubbles. These answers can be as short or as long as you like. But favourite player of all time?
Owen Kelly.
First game you can ever remember playing in?
Jeez, I don't think I remember it now, but the mother has a picture of me when I was 3 years old, tagged out for the Under-12 team. Down in the field, yeah. I'm not sure. I have it there. I have it there somewhere. Anyway, she took a picture of me. I was tagged out. It was an Under-12 guy. I rocked down with me Hurley helmet, jersey, shorts and socks, the whole lot. And I was there asking. The trainer of the team would have been good friends with my father at the time, and I was up and nine him for the whole game. He threw me on corner forward for the last 2 minutes of the game. So I don't remember it, but that's the earliest memory I have because I have it on a picture.
It's gas you say that. There was an interview done with was it Conor Cooney's mother before the All-Ireland Club final, and she said she still has a vivid memory of Éanna Burke out wearing a nappy hurling in the local area or whatever. So you were just out with him, I'd say, at that stage. Out, to be fair to you,
I'd say so. When I find the picture, I'll send it on to Shane.
Come on.
Who's the best man to give a pre-match speech or halftime, whatever?
Oh Jesus, there could be a few. Declan Fannin, we won. As a player and a coach, I've had the privilege of having both. Obviously, you have your Brendan and your Paddies, but it would be between Shamey and Brendan, or Shamey and Declan. Shamey probably wouldn't have done that much talking in previous years, but when he got the captaincy, he probably stepped up. He's talking a small bit more than previous years, but it would be between Brendan, or sorry, Shamey and Declan.
What player from another sport would you admire?
Tom Brady.
And manager from another sport?
Oh, Andy Farrell.
Okay. Who's been your toughest opponent and why?
Toughest opponent that's a good one. Even though I didn't mark him that much, Tommy Welch was absolutely unbelievable. I think I only marked him twice. Just from a sole hurling point of view and defending and everything, he had absolutely everything. And then I suppose Noah Connors was always one that I always kind of struggled to get over. He was fast, he was strong, he was dirty, he was everything. So Noah Connors was always a tough one to get over. And then he, of course, Noah Levy always in your ear then as well.
Can I just ask you, Bubbles, on that? Like, you obviously, as a corner forward, wing forward, you want to get in the ball, you want to express yourself, you want to get scores or whatever. Do you have a respect for the miserable job that the cornerback has? He pulling and dragging, flicking you, trying to annoy you, basically trying to completely spoil your afternoon and make sure you do not get to express yourself in any way?
No, none whatsoever. It's just like, go away and leave me alone.
What did you expect there, Verney? What's our answer?
You could never see yourself doing that type of a role, obviously, ever, or wanting to do it, I'd imagine.
Not a hope. I remember we were up in Carton House a couple of years ago. Myself and Mikey Cal, we were in corner forward. We're playing an in-house game, and the two of us started hitting each other out of the blue. And I dropped my hurley, and we were boxing, we were doing everything. And I turned out no sign of my hurley. He was after catching my hurley and throwing it over the big 10-foot fence about 30 yards behind the goal. But I had no hurley, like, and he was just there, come on, this kind of thing. Like, I was like, I could never see myself doing that to corner forward. But sure, I suppose when you're in that mindset, you probably would.
What's the best team holiday or getaway that you ever had with Tip?
Team holiday, Miami was quite good. In 16, Miami. A lot of stuff goes on in them holidays though that can't be spoken about. So we had Miami in 16, Dubai in 14. And it was a good few. There was a good few team holidays. Training camps now are a different story altogether. There would have been no crack on them.
Do you know, Michael Callan was telling us before on the show, he used to have a whiskey the night before he played in All-Ireland finals. Did you know that about him?
No. Well, yeah, but now it makes sense now.
What team do you most like to beat?
As in what now?
Oh, well, I suppose over the course of your career, who did you like to beat the most?
Oh, like to beat?
Yeah.
I went to college in Cork, so I always said Cork. I used to love playing Cork. Obviously there's a rivalry there between Tip and Cork, but for me, Kilkenny was obviously another big massive rivalry. But I would always say Cork. I love playing Cork and love beating Cork.
Who's the best trainer that you ever worked with, or in Tip?
Best coach?
No, as in what player trained the best?
Player. It'll be between two. It will be Paddy Mar and Bonner Mar. Very hard to pick between each one. Both are very, very different, but the two of them. Now everyone obviously trained hard, but the two of them train hard every day. And you can even see now Paddy is still training hard every day. He's running every day, and he's doing this even though he can't play. Like, so, very hard to distinguish between either Paddy or Bonner.
Who's the worst trainer?
The worst trainer.
Lar?
Oh, shit, didn't even come to my head, but yeah, I say so. Yeah, Lar probably say me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go on. No, go on. Yeah.
Who's the best dressed and who was the worst dressed?
Jesus. Best dressed. I'll give the best dressed to Shamey. I'll give the worst dressed to Lar again.
Who loved the media attention?
Barrett.
Who fancied themselves?
Barrett.
And your proudest day ever playing GA?
It's actually a weird one. The Munster Under-21 final in 2012, we lost to Clare. It probably seems like a bit of a weird one because we lost, but it was still one of the proudest days to captain the team and just to lead out Tipperary in the Munster final in a game that we probably should have won. But you know, after that game, being able to speak to management and players and stuff like that, like, was a huge honour. But we didn't come out with the result, but just to be captain of that team was probably one of my proudest days.
Bubbles, can I hit you with one? We do this real quick thing. It's called winner stays on. So
it's horrible, Bubbles.
Listen, it's tough. But we did it with Jamie Callan on a live show, and he came out with. He ended up with an interesting answer, I thought, at the end. So just going to pit two Tipperary players, our managers, our coaches, and you basically have to say who was your favorite, or who was the best of them, or who had the biggest impact in your career. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, Jesus.
So, Brendan Maher or Paddy Maher?
Oh, Jesus. What, a soft start, is it?
Yeah, I'm just easing you in.
Paddy.
Okay. Paddy Maher or Shamie Callan?
Shamie.
Shamie or Noel McGrath?
Shamie.
Shamie or Lar?
Shamie.
Shamie or Owen Kelly?
Owen Kelly.
Owen Kelly or Liam Sheedy?
Liam Sheedy.
Liam Sheedy or Eamon O'Shea?
Skip. Eamon O'Shea.
Well, fair play to you, and you answered every one of them, and you fell on the same answer as Shamie fell on after going through all of them. Jeez, he must have been unbelievable.
Well, he was, but and the only reason I'd say it is because I had Eamon when I first started out. Well, I was in with the seniors before him, but he was the lad that kind of gave me my proper break, and I was with him for a good few years, and then he came back in 19, whereas I only had Liam from 19 on, so I would have had a longer time with Eamon and worked with him a lot more. Look, obviously Liam is brilliant as well, but Eamon gave me my chance and looked after me very well and done everything for me. So that's the reason why I picked Eamon.
Yeah, fair enough, fair play.
Okay, well, just before we let you go, Bubbles, the Under-20 final, Offaly Tip. What way are you looking? Are you thinking Tip?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. As I said, I only seen Offaly in the Leinster final, and look, I didn't think they played great myself. And I was only watching it on the telly. They kind of just got over the line and I suppose done enough. And then on the opposite side, then Tipperary have been very impressive throughout the round robin stages in Munster. And then probably the worst game that they played then was the Munster final against Cork, and probably shouldn't have won it. Now they stayed in the game and they kept plugging away and they come out with the victory. But I do think Tipperary have the better players overall. I know Offaly have a couple of stars there, and obviously Adam Screeny is their leading light. But I just think from an overall team point of view, I just think that the Tipperary are slightly better, and I give them a slight edge. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if Offaly won it, but just from a hurling point of view and from what I've seen so far, I just give Tipperary the slight edge.
Okay, well look, Bubbles, really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks very much, and hopefully we'll do it again at some stage.
No bother, lads. Thanks very much.
Good man, cheers, Bubbles. Good man.
Okay, that was brilliant. Jeez,
yes, we got through. Fair play to him, and he really put, like as somebody said there, Fiol says, I love the way Shane O'Donnell wouldn't answer any of these questions. In fairness, he fairly put his head in the block there now.
Yeah, I can't believe you put him on the spot like that. As soon as I heard you coming out, I was like, oh, I hate this. Don't do this. Don't do it at all.
Fair crack.
Yeah. So you're thinking Offaly will win this game?
Oh, just Geno, yeah. Like to me, it's a score either way. I like the fact that we've been winning very tight games the whole way through. Kilkenny was a point. Dublin was a score. We beat Dublin by a score earlier on as well. Drew with Galway, obviously. I think it's on a knife edge really. A lot of the talk is probably about Offaly, but you go through. Like we're obviously talking about Darren McCarthy. Then you have Senan Butler. Then you have O'Donoghue. Sam O'Farrell's a brilliant player that we barely mentioned at all. He was captain of the minors 2 years ago. Like Tip have serious quality there as well. I think it'll be a pretty relatively open, high-scoring affair. I think if it is a high-scoring affair, it might suit us a little small bit more. I think we'll just about get there. But listen, we haven't got over the line in this grade yet, so it's a bit of a monkey that we need to get off our back.
And a reminder, the Under-20 All-Ireland final, which is sponsored by O'Neill's, that's on this Saturday evening at 7:15. and you get 20% off your first order with O'Neill's when you subscribe to their newsletter. So they've kindly supported the show today.
And there's some tickets. There's some tickets up for grabs, and they're like hen's teeth as well. So just go to the O'Neill. It's all over the O'Neill's social media, and we'll put the link. We'll put the link in the bio as well. But they're €25 each, but they're worth a lot more than that now. They're worth their weight in gold. So if you can get your hands on one of them, enter that competition and try and get your hands on one of them.
Yeah, you can check our X page, and you can just click through to the link. Michael, when Offaly won that Leinster final, I sent you a message on WhatsApp. Do you want to tell the folks what I sent you?
Well, Offaly put up on their social media, like, we didn't know who we were playing, so it was Offaly v Tip or Cork, Nolan Park, 7:15, June, whatever it is. And Shane edited the image, and it was Offaly v Tradition. So yeah, we are coming up against a bit of a tradition as well. It's funny, like, because we'd obviously, we'd have to go through Rossgrey as well to get to Nolan Park. Like, the crack on the way back through Rossgrey, whether you win or lose. It's 40 years since my mother said they drove back through Rossgrey after the 84 centenary All-Ireland, and they're all out with the Cork/Rossgrey flags, and I was brought up on that. Jesus, I'd love not more than 40 years later for the Offaly flags and the horns to be hooting going back to Rossgrey. I can tell you that.
I know you would, but this will be your 5th All-Ireland Under-20/21 final. There's a big pressure in trying to get over the line in your first one, and that's why, I'd be jibing you a little bit with the tradition thing. Tipperary, as a county, you're brought up in that whole idea of not the underdog mentality, the winning mentality as well. So it's almost like, and look, we could lose this game, but this is what you do. So I don't know, how much does that play in when you've got the massive crowd, the big support, most of the talk is about Offaly rather than Tipperary. And yet, in a way, Tip couldn't have planned this any better.
Yeah, no, Tipper, as I mentioned there, I think Tipper coming into it in a brilliant position. They won't lack for any motivation. Like, the fact that, RT were down in Tullamore and different places talking about tickets yesterday and talking to fans, like, Offaly's gone bananas. There's no point in saying any different, but it's not really anything new to this crew. Like, you're talking about tradition and whatever, but these boys were, the first to win a minor in how long, the first to win a 20 in how long, the first to win a Leinster Colleges in how long. I don't think that really phases them. And while they haven't got over the line in All-Ireland final, they were never going to get over the line in the All-Ireland final last year. They came up against a Cork team that were just superior, really, in all aspects of the game, and
didn't get the red card when they should have.
Yeah, and they were miles ahead physically. There's no point in saying any different. This is a bit. They should have probably beaten Tipperary 2 years ago in the minor when they didn't. It was a bit of a smash and grab, but we did the same to Limerick in '94. So you can't have any excuses. To me, it's a 50-50 game. I don't really see any great advantages on either side. I just think Offaly will just probably see it out, maybe by 2. I just hope all the leading lights that we're talking about, I hope they all light it up, and I would expect them to. Screeny's always delivered on the biggest occasion. Darren McCarthy the same as well. So yeah, it's going to be an absolute belter of a game. We cannot wait for it.
Yeah, River Power says these teams played each other in finals at 14, 16 minor, and now under 20, I think. PWell74, well done, lads, and a great show, brilliant stuff, class people on. We do try and deliver. Make sure you follow us on all the social channels, and there are plenty more at patreon.com/our game. I wonder, is there any matchup that you're looking forward to outside of the obvious? And I'm thinking Conor Martin, who's a good ball carrier, will he, let's say that there aren't sweepers on either side. Maybe there will be on both, but let's say there aren't. He'll trying to find pockets of space and run at Breckin Kavanagh, who's obviously very, very good, if he can at all. So there could potentially, if a centre-back has to hold a little bit, that could be an opportunity for him. Is there anything on the other side that you look at and think, okay, we can get joy?
Yeah, not necessarily a matchup, but the two keepers going to be very, very interesting, obviously. I just think Liam Hoare obviously had a serious illness that saw him couldn't play last year. It's brilliant to see him back, number one, but he's also taken his game to another level. I just thought they were so smart against Dublin. But actually, the semi-final and final, he was going long at different stages in the first half. Then all of a sudden, when they were against the breeze, we started going short, and it's really accurate stuff and playing through the lines. I think he's hugely important, as well as that. He stopped penalties in his last 2 games as well. One, the side he holds the hurl to, and the other where he doesn't. So he's been playing brilliant stuff. And obviously Horgan at the other end got away with that kind of faux pas, like, and he obviously...
Are we sure that was in? We're not sure. It was in.
Couldn't have been more obvious. But he was the hero against Clare in that minor penalty shootout as well. Very, very, very good keeper as well. Distribution is so important now. The role of those two, and even who comes out on top in that battle, whose puckouts hit their targets more, I think that's going to play a big part in it as well.
Yeah, and you know what? If Tip do get on top, like there's a comment here from David Hogan, Tip will have Offaly on the canvas after 10 minutes with 3 or 4 goals, crowd will be mute. Now, while I don't think that will be the case, it could be one of those things that if Tip managed to quieten the crowd, because we know Offaly's going to have a bigger crowd, that in a way could work against you a little bit.
Yeah, we don't start slowly. These boys are, I've never seen it. I thought against Laois that they were maybe a small bit ripe for the picking. They had 8 points scored in the first 5 or 6 minutes. I'd be very surprised if we start slowly, but I totally take the point. If you kill that crowd early, doesn't matter whether you have 100,000 people there. If there's nothing to shout for, there's nothing to shout for. They might as well not be there. But generally, that team usually do start fairly quick. As long as Offaly are in the game after 10 or 15 minutes, the crowd will get the opportunity to build and build and build and build. And I don't see them being blown out of water early, but from a Tip point of view, I'm sure both teams will be really hammering to start. Brendan Cummins and the lads will be saying, like, we want to quieten them, we want to get a good start, and Flip of Offaly would just say, give the crowd oxygen, give them something to go wild about, because there would be nothing worse from an Offaly point of view if they were on the back foot and it was 2-1 to a point after 5 minutes or something like that, because it would negate a lot of what gives the team oxygen, really,
I think it's kind of funny. You look at the Tip team and the two, like Oisin O'Donoghue, who has done really well going in full forward without Paddy McCormick being there, but like two of the guys who were subs in the 2022 minor final, Darren McCarthy and Senan Butler, they're now the two danger men 2 years on, at an age grade where they've at least another year to go. So they've kind of made great strides in the last year or two. And Joe Egan is a guy who was very important on that team a couple of years ago, and he's only just back after being out for, I think, 6 months. He came on very, very late against Cork. I mean, in the space of a week, does that mean he's going to be able to play a much bigger part? I don't know, but he's another boost. Cathal English, I thought, was very good in terms of like getting himself into a position to win ball, but for whatever reason against Cork, it just wasn't sticking, and he was fumbling a little bit of ball, but like he could have a great game here. So I just look at Tip and I think there's more in this team than we saw against Cork. Like, Cork didn't just go out and hit 16 wides. Like, they were forced to hit 16 wides and a lot of it. And Tipperary, I don't think, hit anywhere near the level they could hit in that game. Now, a lot of the talk rightly is about Yee. And I get that, and I understand you're the sexier story and all that kind of stuff, because you're looking to win the first, Under-20 title ever and, all this kind of stuff. But I do feel like there's a big performance in this Tipperary team. And, like, I think Tipperary will win by 1 here. Puck of a ball stuff. But I think our boys will come out on top.
It's funny you say that. I would say that Leinster final win against Dublin was probably Offaly's worst performance in the 3 years, I would say. Yeah. But all that mattered was that they got over the line. They probably didn't use the breeze at times that well in the second half, but they got over the line. It's the same with, like, Tipperary. I understand where you're coming from an improvement point of view, but like, you were kind of looking at that Under-20 final against Cork, and you're like, if you weren't looking at the scoreboard here, you'd be thinking, how are Tipperary holding in this game almost? And there's a serious grit to them, and that's going to keep them in it regardless, even if they're not enjoying purple patches at different stages. And there's a serious grit on both sides. Two teams that are quite similar in a lot of regards, and that's why, like, I'd say that Tip Under-20 team would give Tip a lot of heart for future, because if you have that kind of heart and grit, like, and there's plenty of class there, but having the heart and grit is the soul, really. That's going to go a long way in a few years. And I'd say the same with the Offaly team. Whatever about skill and scores and all the fancy stuff, once you have that kind of underlying kind of want, really, that will send you a hell of a long way. And there's an underlying want, obviously, in both teams to get over the line and both counties to get over the line, but only one can do it. The way we're talking as well, just something that hasn't been mentioned, and Sean Stack is refereeing it as well, but I'd be slightly worried if it ends in a draw and the potential for extra time and penalties and darkness if we don't get a decent evening. Like, there's no lights in Nolan Park. It's not the Gaelic grounds, or it's not Portlaoise. So I think they're playing with fire a small bit with the time that they've even thrown in for. If it's one of those dreary evenings, the darkness will be coming down at the end of full time, let alone extra time if it goes to that.
Yeah, and also just having it go directly against the Champions League final. I know it's 7:15 and then Champions League is 8. It's just not ideal. Could we not have put it at 6 o'clock? Maybe other things around, but move things around a little bit. Good comment from Home of Hurling. Colin Spain against Sam O'Farrell is massive. Now, that could actually be Adam Daly from a Tipperary point of view, thinking we can't let Colin Spain be running up and scoring points. And I was glad when Cyril Farrell mentioned Adam Daly earlier. Now, he did the rugby tackle at the end of the Cork game, but the rules at the moment at under-20 reward that. But, geez, he had a huge game there. So, look, we don't know. It's going to be a flip of a coin, I think, either way towards the end of the game. A lot of people actually saying in terms of, like, if Offaly invade the field this time, at least it won't wreck the field because it's already wrecked, basically.
I wonder, has it improved much in the 6 days? Like, it needs to improve. It needs to improve a bit. Like, I would have an issue with that. And I know, obviously, the venue was set long ago. I think it was set at Congress to mark the centenary of James Nolan's passing, a former president of the GAA. But, like, you'd have to question the timing of that concert. And I believe it was the Monday after, when it was very wet and the stage was being removed. But surely you have it after the round robin stages of Leinster. That's hopefully it doesn't undo either team or anything, and the ball is always bouncing evenly or anything like that.
How do you think Champions League final will go?
Shane, I'm just trying to think who's playing in it. Who? Madrid and who?
Dortmund.
Oh, Madrid will win. They just win.
Right, okay. Just like Tip, in a way.
It's fine. What championship have you been looking at?
I mean, historically. There's a couple of other big hurling games coming this weekend. The Christy Ring final is Derry Kildare, Nicky Rackard, Donegal Mayo, Laurie Maher, Fermanagh against Longford. So that Christy Ring final, and I was saying to you just before we went on air, Derry have played, I think, 11 games between league and championship this year. They've lost only one. That was by 7 points, and that was against Kildare. But other than that, their form has been excellent.
Yeah, their form has been really, really good. Is it Johnny McGarvey? I think I follow him on Twitter. He had a picture of a pint up after they qualified for the final. Job well done. We're talking about teams playing each other twice within the 1 year. It's very rarely the margin of victory is as clear cut as it was the first time. And Colin Keys actually did a piece for us on the football championship. And when repeat pairings were thrown up in the qualifiers, 16 out of 29 fixtures, the result was overturned when they play a second time. So that'll give
Is that within the same year?
Within the same year, yeah.
Okay.
So and it's actually interesting because Roscommon are playing Mayo this weekend, and Mayo beat them already, but just a little under 60% of the time, the result is flipped around. Now, Donegal have kind of booked that trend already, shall we say, by beating Tyrone again. But from a Kildare point of view, anything other than a win would be disastrous, really, because the one goal, I'm sure, for Brian Dowden was to get back up to the McDonagh and try and stay there if at all possible. Now, I think Kildare are going for their fourth Christy Ring in 7 years.
Yeah, they've been up and down. They won it. I can't think of the years, but they have won it 3 times.
I think 18, 20, 22, and hopefully from their point of view 24. And they've been in McDonagh and been relegated each of the other years. So they need to get back up. And if they get back up, they need to avoid that yo-yo.
And of course, Derry don't want to lose. 2 in a row, because last year, of course, they were against Meath and they came up 2 points short there. The Nicky Rackard final, Donegal beat Mayo several weeks ago, and again, this could be a case of flipping it. Donegal, they're looking for their 4th Nicky Rackard Cup final win, whereas Mayo, who I think more often than not are probably operating slightly higher, they're looking for their 3rd title.
Yeah, you definitely associate Mayo more with being a ring side than a Rackard side, even though these two met in the COVID final in 2020, I think it was. I think Donegal won that day. Interesting story from a Mayo point of view. I believe Owen Collins is playing for Mayo, who would have been a former Clare footballer, obviously first cousin of the Podge and Sean Collins. Yeah, I'd probably be just fancying Mayo to get over the line in this. They obviously have the Turin contingent that have a lot of experience at, we'd say close to elite kind of club level, and Shane Boland's a brilliant hurler at this level, brilliant county player. He might just tip the balance in Mayo's favour. The Mar Cup is interesting, Shane, because there's a nice little tip influence there. You mightn't be in, you mightn't be still, in the senior championship, shall we say, but you've been represented. You've been represented well in the Lory-Mar final.
Tipperary haven't played at Croke Park in championship since 2019, which is, ridiculous when you think about it. But anyway, that's the way it panned out. But in this game, you'll have Longford being led in their attack by Cian Darcy, who has played, with distinction minor and under 20 or is it 21, whichever year was his last year for Tipperary. And on the other side, you have Dr. Brian Tehan from Moneygall, who had played with Moneygall in the championship. He's lining out for Mana. So yeah, I've managed to shoehorn in a bit of Tipperary there.
Tehan's an Offaly man, surely, if you're playing with Moneygall.
Look, you can fight that battle with him. I don't want anything to do with that. Obviously, that parish is right on the border, and the bordering line snakes in and out of the parish. But the pitch is in Tipperary.
I wonder, is that one of his relatives actually that's playing camogie with Offaly from Moneygall, or it was a couple of years ago anyway. It'd be funny if they were playing. That's for another day. The Fermanagh story is a fascinating one, because Joe Baldwin, the manager, obviously had his health complications earlier on in the year, and I think he was back on the sideline less than 2 weeks after having a stroke. So this would be a great way for them to cap off what's been a good year. From a Longford point of view, Longford have a fair amount of recruits. They're not just Cian Darcy. They've a decent Castle Pollard contingent playing with them as well. And some noses would be a bit out of joint about that there's not enough maybe natives playing. But that won't matter to them, I'm sure, if they get their hands in the Lory-Mar again.
Yeah, in terms of some of the football going on this weekend, we might just quickly run through who's playing. Cavan against Dublin. It's their first time meeting in football championship since 2020. I don't know, were you there that day? It was during the winter COVID championship, and I was one of the few people there. Was it like one of the few people who had the honour of being there? I wouldn't quite say so, because Dublin walked all over Cavan in that game. And you know the way sometimes there can be 50,000 in Croke Park, and when they watch Dublin batter a team, it's soulless in there. So when there was no one there, you can imagine. Were you there that day?
No, wasn't there that day, but I tell you what I do remember. I remember the conversation on RTE in the Sunday game being totally dominated by the fact that Dublin had hammered provincial champions, and it was like we need to do something here. Dublin, it's a joke or whatever. And ironically enough, Dublin won the All-Ireland and then didn't win for another 2 years. It's gas. What often happens is when a high-profile game like that ends up to be a turkey shoot, the narrative changes to something completely different that's got nothing to do with the game, as it did that day.
And Dublin have averaged 221 in their games so far against Meath, Offaly, Louth and Roscommon. You'd imagine they'll put up a decent score here. It's 1960 since Cavan last beat Dublin in a competitive game, and that was in the league. So I don't think too many people will be holding out hope for them. Roscommon Mayo, you've already kind of mentioned it, that Mayo beat them, was it by 5 points last month? And they also beat them in the league. So 3 in the 1 year, that could be tough going. Like, Davy Burke will be looking for a reaction from his Rossies.
Yeah, it was just interesting to listen to his kind of post-match press briefing after the Dublin game. He's just like, we did some good stuff today or whatever, but it's all about Mayo. It's all about Mayo. And it's just like, that's like, it's a fairly rotten rivalry in certain areas between the two of them. Like, it means a hell of a lot to them. Like, I'm thinking like places like Ballagherine. Like, Ballagherine is a mad one. It's in Roscommon. It's in Roscommon, but they play within the Mayo Championship. Like, so one of Mayo's greatest kind of players, Andy Moore, is was residing in Roscommon, and it's obviously going to be fairly bitter around certain areas there. I would expect it to be pretty tight, and it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility for Roscommon to get a result. They wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw now, to be honest.
I was actually about to write a piece about Cork and Donegal. So they're meeting in another round 2 group stage match. And I couldn't help but think of 2012 when Cork were maybe 18 months, almost 2 years on from winning the All-Ireland. Donegal had that horrid 8-6 defeat in the semi-final the year before. So this was an All-Ireland semi-final. And just before the game, Conor Coonan was obviously looking at this Donegal team that had achieved a rare feat, which was to win Ulster from the preliminary group stage, which means you have to win 4 games to win Ulster. And they didn't concede a goal. And then they played Kerry in the quarter-final, and they beat them, and Donaghy got a goal at the very end. But, Donegal were like this, ultra-defensive team when they didn't have the ball. And then you had Carl Lacey, Mark McHugh, and everybody else sprinted at 100 miles an hour, and their counter-attack was unbelievable. So Coonan was looking at this. How do I beat this? He named Fintan Gould later on to start in the team, and they played with 7 forwards, which at the time was kind of revolutionary. Now, Donegal still won and went on and won the All-Ireland. But do you remember the kerfuffle over Cork playing 7 forwards?
I more remember the fact that Cork went in over the big defensive kind of press that Donegal had, and Colm O'Neill got a beautiful goal. And I remember it well because I had Cork back to win the All-Ireland that year, and I thought they just need to win this game, and I think they'll win the All-Ireland. But Donegal were, when you get a sense early in the game, there's just something a little bit different, and you're kind of on the back foot from the start. That was it that day. I didn't remember that kerfuffle now. That's gas, yeah. Isn't it great? Like, I love when a manager thinks outside the box and tries to do something a bit different.
So Galway are against Westmeath. They're going to Cusack Park this weekend. And do you remember, last year, Westmeath, they didn't win a groups round robin series game, whatever you want to call it, but they could have knocked out Tyrone, but John Heslin's late free sort of leaked wide. But Galway have conceded no goal at all in their championship games this year. They've played 4. So the battle of the Maroons here. Would you be giving it to Galway? And can Galway get back to that stage that they were at a couple of years ago? It seems most of their players are back available again. Can they find that gear that they were in before when they got to the final against Kerry?
Yeah, well, I would have worried about that. Last year they never really got going. They hadn't really got going this year until the latter stages of Connacht. And now all of a sudden you're looking at the match day 26, and you're seeing nearly all of the faces you want in the 26 are there. Not sure what Comer's situation is for this weekend after that injury last day as a result of the McKinless stamp. But you're kind of thinking, and obviously Shane Walsh hasn't caught fire again yet. There's been little glimpses or whatever, but there's definitely potential there. The thing about it, Shane, as well is I have to say, I do find it hard to get 2 and 2s about these games, just because a team could win one game, finish third in a group, and you could have lost 3 championship games and still be qualifying for the knockout stages of the championship, which just seems a bit mad to me. Now, and I'm thinking about that even from a Derry point of view. Derry play Armagh this weekend in the other game in that group. Derry have to win realistically, in the sense of getting things back on track. Obviously, the keeper issues against Donegal, the early enough sending off the last day against Galway. You could maybe say that they were mitigating factors both days, or they were stunned against Donegal. They have to get a win against Armagh, and obviously Armagh are still kind of brooding somewhat from the Ulster final. They got back on track against Westmeath the last day, but they could do it. They could do with a win as well against a big county.
Yeah, to be fair to Derry, the 2 teams they've played so far are Donegal and Galway, 2 potential All-Ireland challengers. I mean, when you go beyond Dublin, there's a lot of teams that are potential challengers.
Oh, yeah.
Derry felt like they were the number 2 team, and now it feels like they're dropping off a little bit. Kerry, I mean, obviously they'll always be in the mix. You're just not entirely sure what you'll get. So Derry Armagh, that's a big game. Also, you've got, what else do you have this weekend? Cavan against Dublin, we've already mentioned.
What else do you have this weekend? The Under-20 All-Ireland Hurling final. No, it is hard to get away from it, isn't it? There's rarely been bigger anticipation for an underage game ever. It's brilliant.
You've got Tyrone Clare, you've got Louth against Monaghan, Meath Kerry. I think that's all the games.
Louth and Monaghan's an interesting one, Shane, because you have 2 teams that are on completely different trajectories. You're looking at Louth, who were real competitive in the Leinster final, got a big win against Meath last weekend, their first one in championship for 49 years, and you have a Monaghan team that haven't won a game since they beat Dublin in the first round of the league. They look like a sinking ship, but they've looked like that before and pulled results out of the bag. So, would you be favouring Louth in that game?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. But I tell you, there won't be too much in it. It would be a big result for Louth to get. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Monaghan pulled something out of it though, and somehow were able to not resurrect their season, but at least come away with some credit. Like, we're talking about a team that were beaten in an Ireland semi-final last year, and they brought the dubs to 60, 65 minutes, and were really, really competitive. I just hope that kind of we're looking at Conor McManus in that All-Ireland semi-final last year, and kind of looking at him on the field after and waiting around, and you're kind of thinking, this is it. I hope his career doesn't end with a whimper at the group stages of the All-Ireland. Do you know what I mean? I hope it's a bigger kind of a knockout game, but this weekend will tell a lot of that. And
Trumpspieler says, Louth versus Monaghan should be a good game. Derby game, no love for each other. Naturally enough, it's not on TV. Kerry versus Meath, and said a load of Zs there. I kind of agree with that. River Power, you get some use to that jersey at the weekend, Shane. He's referring to the fact that the Celtic Challenge is on Sunday. Tipperary entered 2 teams. Both of them got to this is under 17 competition. Both of them got to the semi-finals. Tipperary Blue got to the final. They're against Kilkenny on Sunday. Isn't that a great sign of Tipperary? 2 teams to the semi-final and one half of them get to the final.
It actually is. Would have been some cracks to 2 of them played each other in the final, wouldn't it?
I'd be happy enough.
Lads cutting the SH1T out of each other, and they're from the same county.
And then just finally, the Tailteann Cup. I'll just read out the fixtures here. Kildare Leitrim, Fermanagh Laois, Wicklow versus Carlow, Waterford go to Longford, London take that trip to Limerick, Sligo Antrim, Wexford against Tipperary, and Down against your Offaly. And I'd say you're half worried about how that'll go.
Yeah, and we're out already. So, like, we had a lot to play for in the previous 2 games, and we didn't put up good performances. We've nothing to play for this weekend. So, yeah, I will be a little bit worried because we're coming up against probably one of, if not the biggest hitters in the Tailteann Cup.
Okay, well, look, that's it from the show today. A reminder that we're brought to you by O'Neill's today. We're sponsors of the All-Ireland Under-20 Championship, and get 20% off your first order with O'Neill's when you subscribe to their newsletter. You can follow it on our X channel. Just click through there. Other than that, enjoy the weekend. Obviously, I don't want you to enjoy.
1 second now. Best of luck, my friend.
Absolutely. Okay. That's it for the show, folks. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll chat to you all again at the far side of the weekend.
To succeed, skill and talent alone is not enough. The will to win is worth much more. And that time is coming. That time is now. We are not born champions. We are made.